Hey everyone, and welcome to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 207. I am Peter, and joining me, as always, is Matt.
Hey, what's up?
And Connor's here too.
Yep, just try not to hiccup.
It's a DC Comics podcast. Every week we get together and we work our way through a bunch of DC Comics that were released that we happen to read. Coming up on this week's show, we do have some biggies. We have Dark Knight's Death Metal issue 1. We got Strange Adventures issue 2. Like, I may actually call it Doctor Strange several times during this show.
Just like last time.
It is way better than Doctor Strange, though.
Yeah, well, that goes without saying because Doctor Strange is trash.
I'm not the character, but I'm just saying, like, I'll take Adam Strange to Doctor Strange. That's just me.
Yeah. Superman 22, we got the Flash Annual number 3, which really should have just been Suicide Squad Annual issue 1, but that's neither here nor there. We got Hawkman.
Well, Tom Taylor can't write everything, Pete.
Well, I mean, even if you don't change the writer, though, it's still it's more relevant to Suicide Squad than it is to Flash.
Here's the answer to that. No. Flash sells better.
I guess.
No,
let's get there. Let's
the
put
Flash
it in
book sells better, so they put it in the Flash Annual, so more people will pick it up thinking it's a Flash story, and then maybe they'll go and check out Suicide Squad after.
Like, we'll talk about it when we get to it. All right? Did you even read it, Connor?
Yes, because it's a Flash. Because it was a Suicide Squad thing. We spoke about this before.
Yeah. I don't remember things you say to me, like, you know.
Well, pay attention.
I don't listen to you talk.
I hear Connor talk like so much throughout the week. I can't retain all of it. Too much of it.
Remember the important bits.
Oh, I do. I remember the important bits. The bits that I can use later to make you look a fool. That's the bits I remember. Those are the important
He forgets the things when something comes back up when he's wrong. He conveniently forgets those.
Don't know what you're talking about. Hawkman 24 is out this week, as was Batman The Outsiders 13. We're going to talk about The Question, The Deaths of Vic Sage, issue 3, and then a little add-on at the end as well. We got DCeased Hope at World's End as well. Did I miss something? No missing. Good.
No, there was a Tom Taylor Aquaman half book.
I haven't got that yet.
Okay, I read it. It's decent, but
was this a digital thing or what?
Yeah, it was a digital one. Connor,
okay.
As I am up to my nose in books I still need to read, Connor's like, "Hey, there's Tom Taylor writing Aquaman," and I was like, "Well, I might as well get it." Turns out it's only half a book. It's still, for that $1, half that book is still real good. So,
yeah, I mean, it's probably worth it. I haven't read it yet.
You pay $4 for most, so even if you're just getting half a book for $1.
Yeah. So, and the other half might be good, but I had to read other things. So I read it. In the time it took me to eat my lunch yesterday at work, I was done with the Tom Taylor book.
Joe, I'd love it if Matt didn't know who the other writer was, right? And he's like, nah, the other writer's not important. I just read the Tom Taylor half. But then we went back and checked later, and the other writer's like, oh, somehow, I don't know, someone came back from the dead, and it's actually...
Well,
Wait,
because it's digital first, it's... I'm sorry, but because it's digital first, it's not like it's continuity, so it's
true.
Fine.
Very true.
Yeah.
So that's what's coming up. We got a bit of news as well. Not as much as last week, obviously, because last week was Solicit Central, as well as with a lot of other big things that were coming alongside it. So yeah, episode 207, we're here, and big books to talk about. It's nice. It's it's different. I have to start off on a relatively negative note, but the books are good and nice, and that's a good thing. Mainly, obviously, did this stuff break after the show last week? I think it did. The accusations, Cameron Stewart, and then more notably Warren Ellis. And the reason I say more notably in this case is because that's what this first story is about. Is that Warren Ellis was announced earlier this week to be doing a 2-page story in like one of the one-shots that were coming up later in the year.
We knew he was doing the story a long time ago when the book was announced. We didn't know it was only 2 pages.
Yes, but
we did. I remember reading it was a short. It was a short, and it's about Dinosaur Batman.
Yeah, we knew that.
Stupidly excited for that much, but it was only 2 pages. I do remember that.
Yeah, well, I didn't remember he had a story. It wasn't until I read this thing that I even remembered this. But he's been pulled from that. That 2-page story's been pulled, and they've actually replaced it with a Margaret Bennett 2-page story, which I guess they're just sort of giving her the concept of the dinosaur. But honestly, I don't think I was going to complain if just 2 pages are missing from an anthology one-shot. Like, it would have been fine. But anyway, that's really not the point of this. Is that he's being pulled because there's been some sexual misconduct allegations thrown his way which came after the Cameron Stewart stuff, which Cameron Stewart's not working on anything at DC right now, but of course did work on the Burnside Batgirl stuff.
He was a co-writer for that, yeah.
Co-writer.
Mm.
Allegations of grooming, things like that. We won't get into it too heavily, I don't think, but this was kind of a big thing that kicked off, late last weekend, and it led to a lot of people on Twitter speaking out. A lot of, I was going to say young women, but not really, just women talking about stories
Women
when they
in
were
general.
young. Well, no, but my point
Yeah.
being is they're talking about stories of when they were younger, and they were breaking into the industry, and stories of people who are already there, either grooming or manipulating based on their power, their cred, being worried that they would be blacklisted from publishers if they either spoke out against certain people or refused to do certain things like that.
And it sounds like some people were more explicit with those threats than others.
Yeah. Well, all these have varies, and it kind of actually snowballed into other industries, because this started off being the comic book industry and how there's predatory people within it that'll prey on younger people, mostly in this case women, but there's examples of others as well, as examples of younger men being exploited by older men and things like that too.
Yeah, it's just basically men in the position of power being creeps, and just I would like them just stop.
Yeah, it's so
Control
systematic,
yourself.
and there's no further proof of that than the fact that it snowballed into other industries, and to the point where if you follow the wrestling industry actually overshadowed this by the end of the week, because the amount of stories that were coming out of that side.
There's no wrestling group that has not been touched by this, from my local one here to all the way up to the top ones. WWE, AEW, all around the world. I mean, I haven't seen any from New Japan, but time can tell, right? Like, the wrestling world's on fire. Like, the stuff that I go to for comfort, I can't go to the comfort right now, and then hearing these stories it makes me sick, and it makes this stuff not fun, and that's why I'm into this stuff, right? It's for fun.
Yeah, no, it's I think what's sad about it, what really, outside of just the systematic problem that we have in every industry seemingly, based on this stuff, is that both with comics and wrestling, that the thing that really ties those two together is that they're both creative art forms where, regardless of your opinion on either one, but the point being is that the people who get into them do so because they like it, because they're passionate, because they want to be a part of that world, because they want to make comics, because they want to be a wrestler, whatever it may be. And they put themselves into these positions wanting to get further in that life and that career, and they're taking advantage of, like, almost to the point. The amount of stories specifically out of the English wrestling scene this past couple of days made it sound like any woman who didn't have some sort of story to tell was absurdly lucky that she managed to navigate the minefield that there was that scene.
Right.
So,
It sucks.
There shouldn't be this weird hurdle, this weird, creepy, malevolent gatekeeping that seems to go on.
And that's why there's people out there that claim that all of this is a meritocracy, and that's the biggest lie of it all, right? Is that people will, all you have to do is have the talent, and you'll get up there. And it's like, no, that's not true at all, because people are being held down.
It's how it should be, but I mean, we all know the reality.
Yeah, it's and again, I've seen this in the local scene here when it comes to wrestling, and I'm not involved in local comics, but it seems from hearing these women's stories it's disgusting the type of power some of these men are wielding, and of course the women want to be storytellers, right? That's why they get into comics, and now this group of men's trying to stop them because they don't want to be a part of that system, or they do get taken advantage of and they're quiet about it because of it. And it's like, and again, it makes it sound where, like, I'm being selfish by saying just stop because this is stuff I enjoy, but it's also stop treating women badly, right? Like, it's not that hard. Again, it's not that hard to be a good person, but apparently it is.
It impacted me reading one of the comics this week, at least. Because Cameron Stewart broke earlier in the week. Yeah, that was over the weekend. Warren Ellis broke. It was Monday night or Tuesday morning. So I'd literally, just read it before I read Metal, and I'd forgotten that he was doing a Metal thing. So I've read it, and I saw all the stuff on Twitter. I was reading through it, and later in the day, I went to read my comics, and I get to T-Rex Batman's in it, and I went, oh shit, yeah. I was like, oh shit, what are they gonna do? Like it completely took me out of the comic just because it was, and then I took a break from the comic. I'm back on Twitter and seeing all the stuff again.
Right, and I feel bad for some of our friends that are like huge into some of these creators, right, and having to come to terms with all of that. And selfishly, I look at it like, well, it's not one of my guys yet, like. I mean, I hate having to be on like waiting for it now, right? Like.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously worth mentioning that, like, us having creators that we can no longer like is the lesser of the issues here in terms of the grand scheme of things.
It's not the real problem, obviously.
No, it's what personally kind of hits us a bit more, but we are incredibly fortunate, and let's face it, I mean, again, yeah, some men can be, victimized, and especially in certain positions, but for the most part, we tend to just don't have to worry about this. For the most part, we get to just sail on through and never even think about this. And if I have a bit of advice for anyone, is that for men specifically, for younger men, I mean older men need this too, but I'm thinking specifically if you're, I imagine maybe some teenagers listen to this, or
I know plenty of guys I went to school with that are my age that this is probably a thing.
Yeah,
they do, or they've dealt with in some way. So
yes, what I was going to say is that I think most people will be surprised, or most men specifically, will be surprised if they actually talk to the women that they're around, whether it be their relatives, their friends, girlfriends, whatever it may be, is pretty much like, I won't say everyone, but a silly amount have a story, at least one story of something that made them feel uncomfortable, or something, and they're all varying degrees. There's some that are relatively minor in the grand scheme of things, and then there's ones that are as bad as some of these stories that are coming out now. But they all have something. They all have some story to tell of some time that was, someone was leveraging their position, or they felt scared, or they felt pressured, or something. Like it is a story that, and I feel like any reaction to this stuff where your first instinct is to defend whoever's been accused of the thing, right, is like you're really not understanding how much of a widespread problem this is, and you're sort of determined to be ignorant and bury your head in the sand and not like you don't want to accept it, you don't want to think about it, because maybe it's because you've not witnessed it yourself, maybe because you've just not encountered or even talked to people about their experiences, and you've not noticed it or witnessed it yourself. And it's just,
well, that seems to be the problem across the board with a lot of stuff, whether it's politics or this or anything. It's a lot of people go, well, I haven't experienced, so it must not be true. Well, you haven't experienced like going to the bottom of the ocean, right? But people have. You don't argue with James Cameron that he went to the bottom of the ocean, But any type of negative stuff that comes out, their first thing is to defend what they like. And, you got to come to terms with it, that not like, maybe we shouldn't be deifying a lot of these people, because they are human at the end of the day, and sure, it's going to suck if you have to deal with that this person that you looked up to creatively, or, on other different levels, did something really scummy and creepy and evil, but that doesn't mean that the other person, just because you like that one person, doesn't mean the other person's lying. That's the one thing that I hate seeing in all this, is the people that instantly go to defend that the other person's lying, when I don't know. Why would they just go onto social media and do this just to, what, they're going to ruin someone's career? Well, like, I don't know.
It's like, what I tend to is I want to not give them the benefit of the doubt that it didn't happen, but maybe give them the benefit of the doubt that they've grown since then, and maybe they're better now. And I think that's where, with Warren Ellis, he put out an apology that was really ultimately half-assed, it felt.
It was kind of like, I'm sorry people found out.
It was like, well, he kind of went, well, I didn't realize I was that big of a deal. I didn't realize people looked up to me. I'm like, really? No, bro. Come on. Yeah. It's like, you knew. He's had stories in the past of him bragging about being in first-class planes with famous people. It's like, you knew. Just to wrap this up with a touch on Warren Ellis and his actual work at DC, just to bring this on topic to the show. Apparently, the story in Metal was pulled at his request rather than DC making the call. And it's worth noting he is still working on Batman's Grave. That's still technically coming out, although it is worth noting that the next issue was scheduled for July, but currently has just a TBD date attached to it. So I don't know if that's going to continue or not. We'll have to wait and see on that one.
Damn. Well, I like Bennett enough, so it's not like I'm gonna lose anything reading her work in this. You know what I mean? In that story. So
yeah, I like Bennett.
Yeah. So I think did Snyder bring her in or help give her a spotlight when he was working? Because I don't remember ever heard her name until. Yeah, I can't remember who it is. But so it would make sense that that's who's filling in. You know, they work together well with Snyder.
Yeah, I remember that being one of the annuals around the 0 years stuff. I think it was around that period. The Mr. Bloom, around that period.
So, but yeah, and it might work out for the best. Who knows? I'm just always trying to look at the positive in all of this.
So. Yeah. The other thing I have news wise is Free Comic Day. They're doing this weird like multi-week thing.
9 weeks.
Yeah, 9 weeks of like these random Free Comic Book things from various publishers. Notably though, for our show's perspective, is that there's no DC, and part of that...
That's not true, there is one DC book.
Oh, sorry, there is one DC. But DC is largely absent, and part of that is probably because it's actually Diamond to arrange Free Comic Book Day stuff. And notably, there's no Generation Zero, and that seems to just be gone. The only DC thing... out of 9 weeks of stuff, may I add, the only DC thing is Batman Overdrive, Batman Once Upon a Crime, which is coming on July 29th. So,
I don't know what that is. It sounds like they like there may be the young adult books, and it's like a teaser for those, maybe.
Yeah. So. No, because obviously, as we know, DC have left Diamond, and there's obviously still some overlap happening just now as we transition, but they're not going to be there much longer, so we'll see. Yeah. But notably, that date is within that cutoff. You know, that's before they're going.
It's at the end of July, I believe. Their book's coming out.
Yeah. Well, because they extended it, right? Because it was originally going to be done before then, but.
Yes.
They extended it till, I don't even remember when, but it was another month or something.
I think it's just late July, early August now, I think it is.
Yeah. So that lines up.
Yeah.
About right. So, cool. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, we're not surprised. Generation Zero's gone.
I'm shocked.
And I mean, honestly, after reading Metal issue 1, I kind of feel even more so that, yeah, whatever was going to be changed with Generations is probably just going to be incorporated.
Maybe that's part of the reason why this ended up getting an extra issue and extra tie-ins. Okay, well, now that we've got to do all this other stuff, can we have some more space to tell our story?
Well, I also hate that now I'm reading it with that lens of, okay, what's being added?
Yeah.
What was covering up for Generations? I don't, like, was a certain character always meant to be that cloaked character? Or is that something that was added later? You know, I don't know.
Yeah, also something I discovered today. So this is not news. This is something that, I mean, I could have noticed like probably like a month or two ago, but didn't for some reason. And I've heard no one talk about it. Is that there's actually a skip week coming up at the start of July. There's a week with no books
for DC.
Yeah, because there's books out on. Wait a minute. Oh, maybe I'm wrong. Actually, hold on.
Are you just mixing up the Tuesdays and the Wednesdays?
No, I'm right. There's a couple of trades, but there's no... So the 1st of July, which for DC is the 30th of June, because it's Tuesdays, not Wednesdays, so... So I think if the Tuesday falls in the previous month, that still counts as the first week of the following month, if that makes sense. It still counts for what the Wednesday is, in terms of the schedule. The 30th of June, which is the Tuesday, and 1st of July, which is for the other publishers, there's no single issues coming out.
I'm just trying to find the original, when they rescheduled things.
Because I'm looking at
which week am I looking at? Sorry.
The June 30th we're looking at here is the Tuesday.
Oh, hang on, let me go back to June then, because this update is still. I looked for July's, and it was straight from there. Although I think this is new, because I'm sure I remember there being stuff. Yeah, originally they scheduled Deceased Dead Planet was supposed to be that week. Justice League 48 and Lowest 12 was supposed to be that week when they, a couple of months ago, where they put out their new schedule for the next couple of months. That had been before the new solicits were in effect.
Yeah, for whatever reason,
new.
this has changed. It is notable that was originally going to be kind of the last time that Diamond were putting out single issues. I wonder if that was the reason for the change in the first place. There's maybe a transitionary.
Maybe. Where have you seen this? That it's changed.
I heard about it. Comics List right now doesn't have anything scheduled for that week. So it's a couple of trades, but there's no single issues.
Huh. How strange. Because like I said, this was not the original plan. So this has just been quietly done at some point.
Yeah. Well, it's been very temperamental, with things. And I'm just going to double check on League of Comics to see if they've got the same information.
I just checked. Yeah, there's nothing there.
Yeah. And notably, that's actually also a week that Marvel, because Marvel are just in every other week right now. And notably, that's also a week that Marvel's got no single issues. So there's no Marvel or DC books on the same week.
Yeah. There's Boom and IDW and Image and all that have still got stuff coming out. I'm looking now, and there was other stuff that week, at least as of right now.
Yeah, it's just DC and Marvel. I mean, Marvel it makes sense because it just happens to fall in that week because they're doing it every other week anyway. But yeah, there's a random week with no DC books.
How strange!
I don't like that.
I don't like it either. But it does mean you get to beat Connor in a quiz again, Matt. So I mean, that's good news.
I'm ill that week.
The quizzing.
I told you, no more quizzes once the show came back.
The quizzing, but this is a special quarantine one shot then because there's no comics. It was perfect.
I'm not taking part.
Either way, I win. So
I don't care about that. I'm just bored of quizzes.
Wait, what's it? It's been ages since we did the last one now. We've been back for like 7 episodes.
Quizzes. I'm sick of them.
God, you're such a spoil sport. He sucks the fun out of everything.
Do you want to know what is fun though?
What's fun?
Got more news.
What's the more news? What news has happened?
So we've got a few other little bits and pieces. So the Walmart, the DC giants, obviously those have kind of ended. They've been shifting them to digital first, but they didn't want to stop doing things entirely at Walmart. So they're just doing like multi-packs. They're putting like 4 comics in, bagging them together. It's like $9, and they have like a backing board that will be like an exclusive board, and then they'll like I think the if you get all of them, the boards are supposed to join up to make a bigger picture. They haven't actually said what comics are going to be in them yet, but just they're insistent on getting comics out into the world via Walmart.
I feel like that tells you that they thought of the gimmick first, and the actual books. I'll come later. We'll think of the books later.
Yeah, that's what I'd say. The part of me that loves gimmicks is like, this is cool. The other part of me is like, well, what else?
So yeah, we know there's going to be a Batman pack, a Superman pack, a Wonder Woman pack, an Aquaman pack, and a Justice League pack.
Okay.
I don't know what's going to be in them, but this might work out better in that, maybe just getting some of the actual in-universe books, depending on what they choose, might. If you choose a handful of issues from recent arcs that are just started from a bunch of different books, maybe that'll work better and getting people interested to read more of that next story than just here's a random one-shot thing. Yeah, just another couple of little bits. One almost a little funny thing is just how all the people are, oh, DC single issues are dead, they don't care anymore. And in particular, they don't care about retailers, because if they did, they wouldn't have shifted to making their lives a nightmare. So they're launching a promotional thing with the 3 Jokers, where there's like a playing card with each issue that you get, and each one's going to be one of the 3 Jokers. Just as a little, with every issue, as long as you buy it in a store, you'll get that.
Look, I'm not a big fan of the Joker, but I want those playing cards. So
they do look
kind of
kind
work on me.
Matt, they see you coming. You know that? They see
I
you
know.
coming.
I love stupid little things like that. I can't help it.
Your shop has already set yours aside.
Oh, I'm sure.
Couple more things. When we got some original narrative podcasts with DC characters coming to Spotify. This excites me because Marvel have been doing this for a couple of years now. Annoyingly, they do theirs with Stitcher, so it means there's like a year's exclusivity until I can listen to them because I'm not paying for Stitcher.
Yeah.
Because it's like premium on there. They had the Wolverine one by Benjamin Percy. They've had 2 seasons of that. That's fantastic.
And then they turned that into a comic.
They did. Ben Percy adapted the first series into a comic, which was also really good. So worth checking out. And they've
got. Turns out Ben Percy's good at writing. Who would have thought?
Who knew? Yeah. and there also may or may not be some werewolves in that story, Matt. But the only other, bigger thing that I think is worth talking about is the DC fandom. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen anything about this.
No.
Okay. So it's a virtual convention that they're doing. It'll be like a 24 hours free virtual convention on August the 22nd. And it's going to be a whole, it's a big DC thing. They'll be announcing things to do with movies, TV, and they did specify comics as well. Like we know James Gunn's going to be doing something to do with Suicide Squad at it.
Yeah.
So, in terms of movies, just, okay, there is something relatively big coming on that day, presumably. They said games as well, so we can expect the new Arkham game, whatever that may be, whatever form that's going to be, to actually finally be announced. I know we spoke about that last week, I think. But yeah, August 22nd, I think we're expecting that now. Comics, I have no idea if they treat this as the replacement for San Diego, which is kind of what it feels like it's going to be. Maybe this is.
The news for early next year might be there.
Yeah, because a lot of the other conventions just gave up and cancelled this week. Emerald City's rescheduled one, cancelled. Keystone, PAX West.
Yeah, but if you look at the timeline and you think about, like, by that point, the solicits will be up to, the end of the year, start of next year. Yeah. Then, so, it makes sense that whatever big thing's coming after the end of Metal, that seems like a good place to reveal their books and whatnot.
It's notable that was announced in the same week that, like, Emerald City was originally rescheduled for August, and that was a reasonably sized one that could have had some announcements for that early next year period from DC, but with that cancelled, it's we'll roll it in, just do their own thing. Kind of makes sense.
Also, I saw stuff about a certain cut.
Yes, there was a teaser. There was a little teaser put out for the Snyder cut.
Yeah, I didn't watch it.
I don't.
I clicked on it and then just sort of clicked through it quickly to see if there was anything notable, and you see kind of dark. You see Darkseid at one point. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, because clicking through it and watching like 5 individual seconds in the space of.
That's 5 more seconds than I want to watch of that.
Well, let's be real. I'm gonna watch it when it's on HBO Max, just out of a grim sense of curiosity. But I'm not going out of my way to watch a trailer.
I feel like most people would be mad that I didn't even watch all of a 40-second trailer from start to finish, and you two are mad that I even dared to see 3 seconds of it.
Well, because Pete, we already know. Like it's yeah. I hate having to argue this again with people. It sucks. So I just have to ignore it, which sucks even more. So it turns inward. If anyone's a candidate to become a Hulk here, if I ever get hit with gamma rays, that's it.
All right. Okay, let's move on, shall we? Let's talk about comics. Because we have comics. We have a big comic this week. We have Dark Knight's Death Metal issue 1, Scott Snyder writing with Greg Capullo on the art, or Greg Capullo, as I've written in my notes for some reason. So
they all did have fun nicknames again on the credits page.
Again? Did this last time? I don't remember this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did.
I don't remember what the nicknames were, but I remember they had them.
I feel like they changed every issue.
Yeah, they did.
Oh.
So,
yeah.
Let's see.
My memory just doesn't go back that
I appreciate
far.
that they extended it to every member of the credits page. Yeah, all the variant covers, all the editors, the cartographer, because they hired a cartographer for their map. Everything.
They did.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was Death Metal and Anti-Crisis Part 1. It all matters. Which I was going, you guys, here we go. By Scott, hallowed be thy name, Snyder, and Greg Painkiller Capullo. painkiller's got to be the drink, right, Connor? Like
no, Capullo, almost certainly.
yeah. So that's but yeah.
Yeah, it all matters is kind of a. It's just
mission
kind of,
statement.
yeah. It's just.
It's a shot across the bow.
I feel like getting into this. There's a lot of. How do I put this? There's a lot of bells ringing, shall we say? There's a lot of bells ringing for the crowd that they're trying to appeal to, with some of the verbiage used throughout this issue with certain things.
I think the statement of saying it all matters, and then actually saying, you know, the first caption page, because you have a page at the start with Sergeant Rock, we'll get to that, but then you have the credits page, the map, and then the second page after that, you've got you know, Diana there, and it, you know, the first caption page says Hell, formerly Themyscira, the DCU, and then in brackets, yes, the real DCU.
Right.
They're really going hard to say, no, shit's hit the fan here.
You know what this reminds me of, and I don't know if you guys read this, but I read it all, and I was very disappointed in it. But it's probably because I was missing big chunks. Was Hickman's Secret Wars?
Oh right.
You know,
I thought I was going to say Convergence.
I haven't even read half a page of Hickman's Secret Wars.
I read the first issue of Secret Wars. I read the first issue.
No idea what was going on. I had no idea, but I still read it all. Because it's an event. I used to just read the Marvel events. Now I don't bother, except for I learned my lesson with Hawks and Pox.
So you're saying you're not going to read Empire?
No.
I'll be honest. Until you said it there, I could have told you what the next Marvel event was called. So
I only know because I just read a headline for it when I was going through the news.
Yeah, was it the Hulkling one? Because I saw that too.
I don't know. I saw Empire. I went, oh yeah, that was a thing. I didn't read the rest.
Anyways.
Oh, Mike. Right. So the book starts. I mean, you can talk about Sergeant Raw later. This is kind of a little bookending thing, but we have Wonder Woman. She's actually with a chainsaw breaking down the invisible jet, and we're just kind of slowly introduced to this world that she's in right now. We have obviously a very unhealthy looking Swamp Thing who's much skinnier and
healthier than the last time we saw him in Justice League Dark.
Well, I don't read that book, so why would I know that?
He's been reformed by reality, though, and that's what I wanted to say before my mic went. Is my understanding of Secret Wars was it was all the Marvel universe that had been reshaped by Doctor Doom, and so that's why there was all these different worlds. Here it seems like there's just one world that's been reformed by Batman Who Laughs from the whatever the end that we were at. Because in Justice League that led to this point, Perpetua threw Lex aside for Batman Who Laughs, right?
Yes, because Batman Who Laughs promised endless dark multiverse energy because all the bad things happening constantly.
So
forever.
I kind of feel bad for the people that are just jumping into this, not having read all of that.
That makes no sense if you haven't.
Right. But I do like for us that kind of maybe forgotten some beats. This gets into those and kind of explains those more than I think Snyder had been doing in the Justice League run.
There's one of his big exposition pages in the middle is actually more of a recap page for people who have been reading the run.
Honestly, I think that's for anyone who's jumped into this who didn't read. You know, maybe they read Metal but didn't read Justice League, and they've come back for the Metal sequel. Yeah. They're like, hey, here's the cliff notes of the bare minimum you need to know, and for us, it functions as a recap.
Yeah. Right. So we're introduced to this world as Batman-ruled world. There's villains and various characters in cells, including the Joker, who's rocking some pretty long hair. And we get all these various Batmen from various worlds that are here, including the Bat T-Rex, because of course
who is he is the robot T-Rex from the Batcave that world was going down. Bruce downloaded his consciousness into.
Of course he did.
Yeah.
And I want to hate it, but I can't.
The other Batman there, the red one is Terry.
Terry from a dark, because he's called the Beyonder.
Yeah. And the other one, is that Alfred?
I don't know, but it's Batmage is what they were calling that one.
It kind of looks like Alfred.
Mm-hmm.
He's old for sure. He's old scrawny dude. There's a bunch of jokes here about the T-Rex not being able to throw batarangs with the tiny arms, and he's working on it. Vaguely amusing stuff. And basically, so you know what's funny about this is that I still feel like the Batman Who Laughs text, his narration boxes.
The actual font.
It's I love it's the font or the colors, but something about it just looks lower resolution than everything else.
Oh no, I actually agree with that. It's not because you can zoom right in on it and it's fine. It's just
it's the scratchiness that's meant to make it seem unhinged.
It makes it harder to read. I feel uncomfortable reading it.
And I think that's the point, though, right?
Yeah, but not uncomfortable in a fun. Oh, I'm getting a vibe from this. But uncomfortable in a no. I'm straining my eyes looking at this. I don't. I
don't know if it's maybe it's the scratchiness. Maybe it's the red on the black. I don't know, but I agree. It is a little bit awkward to read.
I feel like I need every time I read that has text. I feel like I need an eye test.
Maybe you need better glasses, Pete, because I have really bad vision, and I don't struggle that bad.
Well, I'm gonna side with Pete here. I have perfect vision, and my eyes don't like this text.
Yeah,
I don't know. You guys are reading it on a bigger screen than I am, so I don't know what's going on. Then I don't have any issue. Yeah. I probably read maybe it's because I read way more of it because I read the Batman Who Laughs. And
you've just
betrayed.
Hey, I read like 4 issues of that.
Right, I know, but I still read more than you.
Yeah, I
struggle that. But before you get to that page, they're bringing in a hooded figure, which led to the first mystery that I start racking my brain on who this could be. So I will give Snyder credit that even though I've read everything up to this point that he's done, it still had some twists and turns.
Yeah, Deanna's like you, so she realizes who it is, but she doesn't say, of course, so we just sort of go ahead. So we get introduced to the outside world, which has got flying Joker dragons going around and all the evil Robins going around going crow
and then
crow.
What seems like the Batman Who Laughs Justice League, who they all have like almost, I'm trying to think of the right word, like patrons, I guess, to these other Batmen that are terrifying. So you have the Harley one, with her man bat-esque creepy crawling bats.
Bat-Thulu.
Bat-Thulu with Aquaman and the Batmage. Then you have Diana with Swamp Thing. A Mr. Miracle with what looks like Batman Orion kind of hybrid.
Batman with a codpiece, essentially.
Well, yeah, but isn't that meant to be like the harness that Orion uses? Right? That's how I read it.
I could buy that, and that would make sense with Mr. Miracle.
Yeah. Well, they show us. We don't really see Superman in this issue, but they do show us because they're giving Batman Who Laughs.
Programming him with the anti-life.
They're giving Batman Who Laughs a report, and they're showing him a hologram of him in Apocalypse, or New Apocalypse. I think they may have even specifically called it. But it's during this Batman starts talking to Diana telepathically, and it's something to do with Jean.
He's reverse engineered the telepathic link because Batman. Just go with it.
Hated it.
Yes. I didn't really think about it too hard, but hearing you two talk about it, like, I'm actually more annoyed at it because Connor just went, "Oh, just go with it." And no,
but that's the impression it gives you. Well, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying I like it. That's what it is. It's just go with it. That's kind of how it's kind of brought up in the issue.
At first, I accepted it because I was like, well, that link was in Justice League. Like, that's how they communicated. It was well established. But then to have Bruce go, "Oh, I reverse engineered it." Well, no, you're not a telepath, bro. Like,
yeah, because the first thing is Diana's like, how? It's like, when John set up the psychic link, I built my own version of the signal just in case. And it's like, I'm not sure that's how telepathy works, Bruce, but sure.
But I was like, you know what? I'm enjoying the setting. I will move on. I did.
So they have kind of an inner debate about what to do. There's a bat rocket at one point that goes for the Batman Who Laughs, and the evil Robins just jump in and take the blast for him, as you do. And Batman just stands there. He's just waiting, and Batman Who Laughs wants it's like, "Hey, Bruce, you finally showed up." Blah 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 blah. And he sends his Batman army after him,
which has got some great. We got a Scarecrow, a Clayface, Etrigan. What else have we got in there?
You have a Deathstroke,
Plastic Man,
Plastic Man.
I think.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of characters, and then ultimately, Bruce whips out a Black Lantern ring and says, "Rise," to raise an army of the dead to fight them.
Yeah, so in that exposition page, you had the Batman Who Laughs explaining that as a kid, his dad would take him to this field to practice baseball, and he'd ask why. He said, "These are the bodies buried of some of the revolutionaries of Gotham that got taken out during the Revolutionary War. They called themselves the Dead Bats." So I was getting some Gangs of New York vibes. Was that?
It was the Dead Beats, and then they co-opted it later.
Right, because the dead beats of a drum and whatnot. And so I was like, well, I wonder how this is going to pay off. And then, because it was very Gangs of New York feeling, right? And then here he comes up with the Black Lantern ring to rise, which then I was also like, well, this must be Black Lantern's ring, because I know from that crisis from Blackest Night that the rings had to revive the heroes, right?
Yeah.
That's how they came up. So anyways, that was just a little
and then
thing.
One of the people who comes up is our old buddy Jonah Hex.
Yep. And so they fight the Batman, the Batman Who Laughs, provides a cover for Bruce to get away on his bone motorcycle.
So mad.
Batman and Wonder Woman kind of have a debate, again, telepathically about, Batman's basically at the point now where he's like, we just have to try and save whoever's left. We have to try and build something from what we have now. And Wonder Woman still clinging on to the hope that they can fix everything. They can put everything back the way it was, and fix the universe. And that's when we cut to Osix, if I'm saying that right. A living planet of bone where Lobo is digging up something at the behest of someone else. All very mysterious. It doesn't show us what it is. It just kind of,
It looks like it's wooden. It looks like a barrel, maybe, or a chest.
Or a crate, right. Something that's, presumably whatever it actually is inside the...
Yeah, but just in terms of the size of it, it's giving us some sense of scale.
Yeah. So, and then we get to... Because, up until now, I've enjoyed some of the humor with the dinosaur and some of the beats and whatnot. For me, everything that makes this issue is basically from this point on.
I agree, and what I think is really notable is there was a point where I got to that that last page with Lobo, and then the next page is just one of those interlude pages, power chords. It says, I was like, that could have been the end of the issue. That tease, that amount of pages could have been the end of an issue.
If that was the end of the issue, I'd have come in here and said, yeah, it was okay.
Yeah,
I would have been very lukewarm on it.
This is what makes it worthy of the title of the Anti-Crisis. That explains. We're going to explain that, but right here, the introduction of this character is, to me, what turns it into a modern Crisis that sets it up to that next level.
And I think one of the reasons why it's only so up until this point, or that's maybe a bit unfair, but just if that's all it was,
kind of,
it seems like a blockbuster up to this point, right?
Well, no. What I was trying to say is, if this is all the book was up until this point, and then it ended here, part of the reason why it doesn't really start to feel exciting until after this is because how many times do we do this in comics where all the heroes end up in some alternate version of the world? They do it all the goddamn time. Marvel do it all the goddamn time. It's it's a trope in comic books that is overused to the nth degree. It really is. Where this gets interesting is because the characters being themselves and the characters actually try to fight for the things that matter and for the world that we know and remember is what's interesting. So Diana, because that prisoner that came in earlier that we didn't get to see, didn't go into a cell, went into the pit, the Tartarus pit.
Into Tartarus, right.
Right. So Diana goes in, even though she's not supposed to, and she's into this dark void, and we find out that the hooded figure was Wally West, and he's got his blue outfit on, but he's Wally West, and first of all, just a touching moment here where she hugs him and says, old friend, we're going to make this right. Even that was just oh man, you're pulling at my heartstrings here, Snyder. Don't tease something you're not going to deliver on, you prick. Right? I tell you right now, if you're not going to fix this, you dare tease it.
I've got more faith in Snyder delivering in this story than I did in the overall generations shot with everyone.
Right. He had to already have been here though, in this story, because this first issue would have been written before things were pushed or before generations were pulled.
It almost seems to me like what we thought was being wedged into Metal, it seems like Generations was being wedged in to DC, right? Snyder had his plan, and sure, things have changed, but then it seemed like they were going to wedge in whatever Generations is in addition to that. So I feel like this is just reset it.
I don't know, because I feel like what was more likely happening is that Snyder's got his story that he wants to tell, and whatever it happens to fix in the DCU, like post it, it's not anything he's even concerned about doing necessarily. He's not necessarily involved in the deciding what that is. It's just his story happens to lend itself to, at the end, they're going to fix the multiverse, and whatever they want to do in terms of continuity afterwards, what's in place, what isn't, they can just have happen. Right. It's a good excuse for it.
And that's what I'm saying. We're generations wedged into that, going forward. But just I just look at the timeline of he was supposed to write that Wonder Woman story, right? Or he did write that Wonder Woman story that was in 750 that reintroduces the JSA. And that was supposed to be the continuity going forward for whatever was coming next.
Yeah, I mean, we know from previews and stuff that the JSA are in the next issue of Mel. Right. So we are dealing with that stuff in this book.
Yeah, I feel like I wouldn't necessarily say Generations was feeling wedged in more, because if anything, even if this was like still exactly as it was before, and I feel like this first issue has to be just given when it had to have been written and when things changed, is that it's more just that Generations was going to be a good way of explaining what the continuity is that is created at the end of Mel.
I think for me it feels like it's more streamlined now. Like, if this is the story, it makes Generations feel like it might have been a little bit redundant and just extra issues for the sake of it. Whereas now I've got it in the form of a story that
presumably
relevant, perhaps.
Presumably it was going to set up whatever 5G was going to be as well, though, so it'd have had its own goal on top of explaining continuity.
But that in its own right feels a little bit messy doing that at the same time as a crisis/anti-crisis.
Right. Well, just remember we were supposed to get that book, the Forgotten History of the DCU.
Oh yeah, that was ages ago.
Right, and that was gonna be by John Ridley. Well, John Ridley's writing part of that Joker War one shot. Because now I'm just thinking of this because we were talking about that, right?
Yeah, because we kind of heard that book was kind of dead again, but the relationship clearly isn't dead between him and DC. If even if it's a significantly smaller project, he's got, I don't know, 5-10 pages in a one shot.
Right. So I'm just saying, because Connor's saying this feels more streamlined. Now all these pieces are starting to fall in to me now, right? Where, like you just said, the relationship's not dead, just that book and whatever it was. So, which is always a good sign, right? Like, so, but anyways, this is where it starts to get to the crisis-y.
Yeah, because
as a continuity wonk, I freaking love.
We have this emotional beat between them, and given that Wonder Woman and Wally aren't exactly two characters, I mean, when I think of Wally having emotional beats with other DC characters, even if you just
Diana,
if you exclude the close family, which is Flash, by that I mean Barry and Linda and the characters like, I think of him being with Dick. I think of him being maybe with Kyle or something. Characters who were around his tenure, right? I don't think of him having his beats with Diana, so it was kind of a nice sweet mix. But then we get the double page kind of like Scott Snyder trying to work Perpetua into every crisis that's ever happened.
And I don't hate it. Like
it's not terrible. It's not bad.
It seems to work in the fact that he set up Perpetua as this. She tried to create her multiverse, and it got corrupted, and because of that corruption, it's led to all these crises because it's trying to fix itself.
No. She intentionally made the multiverse this way.
Yeah, there are lots of beings like Perpetua who created their own multiverses.
Yeah, so I'm going to let me try and summarize this, and then we can, if I get something wrong or whatever, we could pick it apart after. But the way I understood it is that there's lots of beings, whatever type of being Perpetua is. I don't even think God's the right term, but like whatever type of being
beyond that
Perpetua is. They all make multiverses, and as Wally explains it, because he's been traveling around the multiverse, multiverses even, is that there's basically two poles. If you think of like the North and South Pole, right? There's two poles of energy, and one is all the positive things. It's the emotional spectrum, the Speed Force, hope, blah blah blah, all that stuff. The other side is doom and injustice and crisis energy, because a crisis is an energy now.
It's kind of an equivalent of matter and antimatter, right?
Right. It is. So, and entropy in that state that, stuff will go into chaos.
Right. So
over time.
So what's basically this is that Perpetua didn't make her multiverse out of the because he calls it what the connective. That's the good energy. The connective is the good energy. She didn't make it out of that. She made her multiverse out of the crisis energy, and the other beings of her kind basically imprisoned her in the source wall, hoping, partly as a punishment, but mostly hoping that she would see her multiverse grow and she would gain empathy and become a better being because of it. That did not happen. She was just angry and she was bitter and she held a grudge, and essentially all these crises that have happened over time is basically because of the way the multiverse was created. It all stems from how she started it.
And it mentions that she would, whisper it out into the multiverse, and certain beings would kind of hear that and start crises because of what they heard. Maybe not consciously, but
yeah. So on this page, you see the Anti-Monitor, you see Superboy Prime, you see all the Prime suspects.
Is it just me, or does the Anti-Monitor have bat ears? Is that just the perspective?
It's just the perspective.
I think it's just the perspective.
Yeah.
Because I saw that and it made me chuckle.
So the idea is that now that she's in control and she's got the Batman Who Laughs to basically, because they point this out, and I like this idea that the reason why they've not just killed the Justice League is that there has to be beings that remember all these crises, so that the Dark Multiverse versions of these crises keep happening, because that energy is what's been used to fulfill everything.
Right. It's the Dark Multiverses, or the Dark Universes, that are being born out of all their bad thoughts and whatnot. Their memory is what's powering Batman Who Laughs.
And this is where it ties it into Rebirth as a whole, and talks about how Manhattan is essentially made of connective energy. That's what all his power is.
And at the end of Doomsday Clock, so it tries to tie in Doomsday Clock completely here, which is at the end of Doomsday Clock, he tried to fix it, and he did his best, but it didn't have the intended effect. And it leaves us in this place. So what's funny here is I don't even hate that Wally's got a Manhattan symbol on him. I'm like, okay, now that's what we're doing with Wally now. Okay, we're making him this multiverse being.
Yeah, because he's full of the connective energy now.
Yes.
So, which is cool. So real quick, who's the character behind Darkseid? He looks so familiar, and I can't put my finger on it.
It's very vampire-y, isn't he?
He looks like an Uber vamp from the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Because I was like, that's not what Barbados looked like. And then you see Barbados with the hood on, right down at the bottom. So I'm like,
yeah, that's metal. The first metal there.
Yeah, whoever's behind Darkseid, that has to be Final Crisis. So it was in Final Crisis.
Okay, that's why he's the Anti-Monitor from the Crisis, the one that got corrupted and became an energy vampire.
Okay.
And was draining the worlds. Yeah, okay.
That's it.
Thanks, Pete.
There you go. So Diana wants to fix this. Batman Who Laughs shows up, of course, and is like, no, I'm listening to you.
There was a really meta line with Batman Who Laughs. I don't know if it was here or early on about, you think you're sick of me.
It was earlier on, that line.
Are.
Yeah, in fact, he's the one who drops the phrase anti-crisis. In fact, if I have a problem with the dialogue here, it's the Batman Who Laughs pointing out that if you call the other crisis a direct crisis, you have AC/DC. I'm like, okay, you know what? Don't. That's something for the writers to tell us on Twitter as a joke, and it can be funny. Having the characters say that in the book, I thought was a bit stupid. But
I just heard
funny coming from this particular deranged character.
Yeah. If I don't know, Hal said this, it'd be okay. It seems like Hal's character to say a dumb metal joke, right?
All I know is when he heard that, I immediately heard the first riffs of Thunderstruck. So that's just me, though.
I'm more of a Highway to Hell man, but that's fine. So yeah, and poor Swamp Thing's getting beat up by Bat T-Rex, Bat Rex. There you go, come Bat Rex.
How'd you like them arms, Pitch?
Yeah. That was pretty funny. I'll give you that. And then Batman Who Laughs basically monologuing and about how Wonder Woman can't do this, and or even try to predict what she would do, or what Bruce would do. And he's like, "Oh, you'd already have a weapon. You already, you already got a shield to behind, so you'd make a weapon. You'd make a sword." And she's like, "Nah, not a sword." And then you see her revving something invisible, right? Because it's just a string. You see the pull cord.
We know it was made from the invisible jet.
So the full page spread that comes next is Batman Who Laughs being impaled with an invisible chainsaw. So you can see Wonder Woman holding where the the handle and that would be, but you just see the light where it's going through the Batman Who Laughs. And I will say this is kind of ballsy. I kind of like this. Is that Snyder, for some of his faults and his exposition and other things, I think he clearly understood that there was a very large portion of the audience who is sick to death of the Batman Who Laughs because he's been overexposed since Metal.
Yeah, I think that was clear in the earlier dialogue that I mentioned. It was like, yeah, but you're still here for it. But he was aware of the problem.
But that felt more hollow because it was like, okay, you're acknowledging it, but I'm still having to read the asshole. Like, you're still here. Like, you can acknowledge it all you want.
For me, that was an acknowledgement that some people feel like that, but maybe the majority, maybe we're in the minority of being kind of sick of it. Maybe the majority is like, well, it still sells, so clearly you care. Yeah,
but that comes across as arrogant to me, so it makes it unlikable. It makes me annoyed at that meta line, if you want to put it like that. This here at the end was a statement. It was a statement of two things. It was one, no, the Batman Who Laughs is done. I created him. I'm finishing him. He's gone. And two, it means, oh, we're not just going to be dealing with this asshole for the next 6 issues. Good. Yep. Fantastic news. And on top of that, it made for a great page. So, the weapon reveal was great. Exciting.
Yeah, so I read this on Tuesday, and it did make a thing, but for whatever reason, I thought she made the chainsaw out of the lasso of truth. Was that something that was on that page?
No, I don't think so.
I know why you're thinking that. I think you're thinking that because when it was originally announced that she was going to have a chainsaw, way back when we first heard about Metal, Snyder called it the chainsaw of truth.
It says that on the very next page.
It says on the very next page.
Yeah, but that's like, been in your head for so long that that's probably why you were thinking.
Because then I just went and looked over it, and I was like, it's not on this page. Because that's a pretty great thing that she's using the truth to cut down Batman Who Laughs. Like, I do like that concept. So, but yeah, no, that part I actually was like, oh man, okay, this is not at all what I thought it was, and good.
I mean, they're making this a Wonder Woman centric story, and they make it again. There's a very meta line. There's almost too many meta lines in this, where she's like, "This is not a Batman story. This is my story." Like, maybe a bit too on the nose, but obviously I appreciate it though. I appreciate the fact that that's what it is, and the fact that it might be like a Wonder Woman and maybe secondary Wally West, like.
Yeah, I mean, Snyder always told us it was a Wonder Woman story first.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still a DC Universe event, but she was always going to be the linchpin character. But obviously, he couldn't tell us about Wally West.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. So, I mean, don't know. He might be not like the second player. He might still just be, a supporting cast member, and that's fine. But, like...
Well, he's there.
Yeah, it feels important.
I do feel like this has become a escort mission, and now she's just got to keep Wally alive. Because he's the energy source they're going to need to undo all this. You know what I mean?
So, no, honestly, super excited. When you see her revving the chainsaw, you get excited for the next page. I mean, dare I say, it feels metal. So,
Yep.
I cannot complain.
I think
the book won me over.
No matter your opinion by the end of this book, good or bad, whoever you are, Peace Your City, like that's great. But if you didn't, there would be no denying that this book lives up to the promise of being metal, for good or for bad.
I mean, no, Snyder's so hit and miss with me. And Metal 1 I like quite a bit, but I did have problems with it, especially in the middle. It kind of sagged in exposition and all that other stuff. You can go back and listen to everything I said. But so I get into this. I was somewhat excited, but there was trepidation. And then I feel like the first half was fine, but not necessarily blew me away. And then the second half, the conversation with Wally, the multiverse stuff, the anti-crisis stuff, the chainsaw itself, all that stuff won me over.
We've got a couple of pages to go.
There's another couple of pages to go. We have the other Batman and some of the Robins.
It's the Mage one comes out, right?
They've got a button, which is the Watchman button, but it's it's a sad face.
Frowny face.
It's not a smiley face, it's a sad face. And they press this button, and it opens a door, revealing some mysterious... I mean, they say final Bruce Wayne in the speech bubble, but the figure has a Dr. Manhattan symbol on his head.
And he's blue as well, not just a symbol. He has blue skin. So I don't think that's just a light. I know there's a blue light behind him, but you can see his arm at the front that looks blue. Maybe that's a coloring mistake. It's possible. But it certainly seems blue.
It looks like he has hair though, which is not Manhattan-esque.
No, that's true. I'm fascinated.
Yeah. So is this a Bruce Wayne that's also Manhattan from another universe? Like, what's
Right.
going
Low
Is
key
this
hate
gonna be like
that.
Wally West versus Bruce Wayne?
Yeah.
Batman as Dr. Manhattan. No, Matt's going to love this.
That is the final culmination of the Bat God.
Yeah, it's literally the Bat God, and I hate the Bat God.
If the Bat God is the enemy, yeah, maybe you end up loving.
I just became the kombucha girl meme.
Yeah.
Also, I missed this on the first read through, because I read this as I was waiting on the side of my the road because my truck died. I was like, well, I might as well read metal right now.
Okay.
Yeah, right. I missed that the damage called the Robins Groblins, which is a smash together of goblins and robins.
Yeah.
I kind of love it.
Yeah, and then obviously the wraparound is Sergeant Rock at the start of the book is just like getting into battle and he's talking about eating hamburgers or something. I don't know, he's doing hoorah speeches.
I actually love that first page because you have Sergeant Rock monologuing and you're like, okay, it's Sergeant Rock, and then he pulls out a very futuristic looking gun and you're like, oh, okay then.
Yeah, it looks not dissimilar to the guns from Aliens, the Colonial Marines use. Yeah. It looks similar to that in terms of aesthetic. But Batman shows up here and basically says, like, like the fight's coming, like we have to go now. And it seems that Batman is going around collecting people, which, by the way, Sergeant Rock's missing half of his body.
Just his body.
Yeah.
He's bones from the chest down.
Yeah. But Batman says, one last fight, everyone together being bolded. So I don't know if this is later in the timeline, and this is Batman who's come around to, like, to Wonder Woman's, like, let's actually do it, let's actually fight and bring everything back. I get the impression this is later in the timeline, because the Batman who's in the main portion of the book feels a bit more jaded and hopeless than this. I don't know, this feels more hopeful and like, yeah, we can get everyone together and make one last stand kind of thing.
Yeah. I know Snyder's talked about how, like, the first metal, like they think, oh, we kind of gave some characters not new longevity, but more, we put a spotlight on some smaller characters that maybe people weren't as familiar with. And he wants to do that this time around again. So, he mentioned Sergeant Rock and Jonah Hex. He wants them to, have enough of a part in this that people are like, oh, I could go for a new book from them because it's been a while.
Yeah, I also am reading that as a bit meta too, because those are two non-superheroes that had pretty good runs, right? Yeah.
I think he
it's almost like they're
Wally West in that as well, in the sense that it's been a while since we've had a proper Wally West book that people really wanted to read.
Yes, but my point was, before you brought up Wally West, though, is that these are ones that are kind of outside of crises, right? Like Sergeant Rock's never really been a main through that, or Jonah Hex. It's always our superheroes, throughout the time. So you have these more pulpy style heroes showing up here in the first one, and I feel that's not by accident. It's like a meta take too in comics, and like you guys were saying about maybe we'll get a Sergeant Rock book coming out of this, or even more Jonah Hex.
Yeah, and it might not necessarily be a spin-off book. It might not be like, this version of Sergeant Rock, but more just, okay, Sergeant Rock's in this, and it's put him back in people's minds that maybe if they launch one now, people will be more open to reading it.
Even if it was a quarterly Black Label book, like weird Western tales, or all-star Western type, or even war stories with them, I think that would be cool. That'd be nice.
I see like a quarterly $10 anthology sort of thing with you do Sergeant Rock, All-Star Western, Black Hawks.
Yeah, stuff like that. I think they would be cool, really, really cool.
Because he mentioned, in terms of the characters from the first one, like the Hawks, for example, where there'd not been any Hawk content for a while, and now we've got an ongoing Hawk book that's been going for 2 years.
And it's low-key my favorite thing DC's putting out.
It's so good. It's all about more about
well, and also he did put Kendra Saunders back up on the forefront, and through that, we now have that Hawkman book where they're not tied together like they were. We'll talk about it later today, but we get Hawk, we got Carter and Shayera back as part of that, and that all came through Metal.
That was, he kind of said that was part of his intention with
Mhm.
some of the other side characters that he's throwing in here is maybe not all of them, but maybe some of them
Right.
will get that feeling of, oh, well, we could try
And-
another book with them now, and maybe it'll be a bit more popular because they've
And
just appeared in a big event.
and it's always those lower tier characters why I love DC. You know, I love the Booster Golds and the Ted Cords so anytime you can give them some prominence in a story like this, I like that. So hopefully we can get some of that going forward with some of these small characters. Even Lobo, the character I'm not that big on, but he's fun when he's used in spots like this. So like, what's he up to on that bone planet?
Yeah, who's talking to him?
Right. And I like that. Even though Lobo's kind of a bigger character, right? He's had his own solo book for on and off.
Not recently though. I mean, not in the last few years.
And also, if you're gonna have a book of metal, where is Lobo in that? Like, you got to feature him. He's a biker.
He definitely doesn't feel out of place.
No. So yeah.
Yeah. That's the first issue of Death Metal. Honestly, no, I'm pleasantly surprised. I feel like once it got to the meat of what it was doing, which was the Wild West stuff, the Anti-Crisis, Multiverse, and then the actual moment the chainsaw, all that stuff I thought was really good. And it kind of like, and obviously even Batman with the Black Lantern ring was a pretty cool moment. I think I was definitely feeling early on, okay, we're doing an alternate world, all the heroes are here. Like, how many times have we seen this in comic books? Because they do it all the time. But once it actually started getting to the reasons why I should care about what's going on, the reasons why I should care about why they're doing what they're doing, and really root for them in the fight. Once it got to that point, I was into it.
Just worth noting on that, this is the alternate world. We've seen it before, which, yes, we have. I kind of care a little bit more inherently, or don't mind it as much inherently this time, because, okay, if this is the one that's going to be the crisis that's going to be resetting things on a reasonable scale, it doesn't feel as cheap as just doing it for a 6-issue arc.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like it'll have consequences.
Oh, sure. But I mean, it doesn't really matter like what the reasons are. The point is that it's just a trope that we've seen done a million times.
Oh, it is. I mean, more like, this is more akin to like Flashpoint, right? As opposed to random story in Justice League.
Yeah. Okay, they do it too often, though. Because there's definite beats to it where you're sort of like discovering, okay, what's the world like, and like, which character's going to show up in which role, because they've always spread out doing different things.
I soured you on this recently.
What?
It's Emperor Joker.
Oh yeah, Emperor Joker didn't help, but there's definitely, because even something like I've never actually read X-Men Apocalypse, right? But I was reading whatever X-Men book was coming
Age of
out,
Apocalypse,
or Age of Apocalypse, yeah. Whatever book, when we were reading some X-Men stuff, I think it was like a 16-issue arc in the main X-Men title. It went weekly for a while. It was the Age of X-Man or something like that. But it was doing like Apocalypse adjacent stuff where we were going into Apocalypse again.
That was what we were doing previously.
Yeah.
Trying that
elsewhere
and,
with X-Man. And everything that I didn't like either. It's like, they all have, like, both companies have these big examples of these, just like, and I'm like, just take good stories. Not everything has to be alternate versions of everything.
And that's why I can get that itch scratch with something like the Booster Gold book, where you get to go to different time periods and the what's ifs. And then on top of that, at Marvel, you had Exiles. We had that group, and it was built in. If they failed, they ceased to exist or whatever. So there was that. And I always felt that was fun because you got that in small doses. Like the DCU didn't revolve around that Booster Gold book.
Yeah, but I want to make it clear though, because I feel like I've had to justify what I was saying about that to explain it, and explaining it's making me sound really negative. When the point I'm trying to make is that I didn't really care once I actually got to the meat of it. Once I actually got to why I care, I was into it.
I'm really excited now for the rest of the season, especially September when we get in, like almost like weekly. Even though it's not the main book, we'll have like weekly stories from this world. I'm kind of excited for that.
I'm dreading about issue 4-ish, because that's usually when the exposition dump issue happens from Snyder. So I'm expecting to hate one of them in the middle.
It'll either be right before or right after the break.
Yeah. So not looking forward to that specific one, but otherwise, yes, it's looking hopeful. Matt, what do you give it Death Metal issue 1?
I'm gonna give it a solid 8.
Connor?
8.5 from me.
I would get 8.5 as well. That somehow I am rating it higher than Matt. I did not see that coming, but
This ratings are BS. I hate them.
Oh god.
I wonder if I'd gone first and said 8.5, do you reckon Matt would have followed and just gone 8.5 or even 9 instead of going in at 8?
No, because I liked it a lot, but now it makes it seem like you liked it less.
This is why I like to make Matt go first, is because he has to, like, he can't be influenced by our scores. He has to just go.
And this is why everything's a 7 and above most of the time.
Strange Adventures issue 2, Tom King writing, of course, with Mitch Gerads on the art, and it has been so long. And Doc Strainer, sorry, of course. You can blame, I don't know if it was Comixology or Leo Comic Geeks, wherever I got the information from. They neglected to mention the other one. I wasn't thinking about it.
Yeah, but you should know.
I should know, but I wasn't.
Yeah,
I wasn't thinking about it. All right. So this one, like, obviously, I loved issue 1. I was looking forward to issue 2.
Mm-hmm.
And as I started reading this issue, I'm like, oh god. Just I had to sort of stop. Just had to sit down and like, right, just think about issue 1. What happened in issue 1? What was the what was the gist of it?
Well, it was that, and this is so different in theme to issue 1 because this is the Mr. Terrific introduction.
Yeah, because obviously issue 1, it had 2 stories. It had the present day stuff, you know, after the book writing and the murder accusation, and then the flashback stuff was during the war on Ran. This issue does the same thing, but the present day stuff is all Mr. Terrific. It's all Mr. Terrific's perspective.
They did confirm that's kind of how it's going to break down from here on out. Is that the all the stories from the book are Doc Shainer's stuff, and all the investigation is the way they're phrasing it will be Gerads.
Oh, that's not a surprise. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
We expected that anyway, based on issue 1, I think.
Oh, I think there was a point of we're not sure exactly how it broke up, but that is how it's going to be for the entire book.
Right, we didn't know exactly how Mr. Terrific was going to fit in when it was announced, because that was kind of the secret. He was the secret second character, or second star.
Yeah, and
of the book.
I think it's interesting that all the team are referring to him as the third character. It's a 3-character book according to all of them, being Strange, Terrific, and Alana Strange as well as the third character.
Because I was getting vibes reading this that Alana's not everything that we think. And it made me think about some of the stuff, because I went back and in the time that we weren't getting weekly comics, I went back and read Strange, the Adam Strange Planet Heist, and Alana's completely different in there. You know, like she is this, not that she's a damsel, but that's how it's played throughout. And you see that she's a strong character. And here, looking over some of what you read in the Shainer portions, and thinking back to that first issue of the Gerads book, she seems off. She seems like there's something more to her, like manipulative almost. It's not adding up, and I think that's a great aspect here, right?
Sure. I didn't really notice that, to be honest, but sure. But yeah, Mr. Terrific, he it's basically, it's all set before he met, because obviously issue 1 ended with him meeting Adam and Alana, and it all builds up to kind of the same point, and it's basically the Batman's messaged him saying, hey, do you want to look into this case? And he talks to Batman a couple of times over his T-spheres. There's this running thing though where his T-spheres are asking him like various history questions. Sometimes
some of them are history, some of them like trivia, some of them are like equations.
Yeah, and he's getting them all right because he's the smartest dude on the planet, basically.
Third smartest.
Third smartest, sorry.
Yep, that's canon. Which, just make him the smartest. Like, I want Mr. Terrific. Like, that's fine. Like, he can be the smartest man.
Let that be his thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but making him the third smartest is always a fun little thing, because you're like, who's 1 and 2?
Yeah, I wasn't being that specific. I was just sort of...
No, I know.
Saying he's that smart.
I had to flex my muscle there.
Yeah.
I like how some of them they ask are like, they're just quotations from things, and he has to say what it's from.
Which, I'm not gonna lie, it started to annoy me at a certain point, because I didn't know where it was going. Like, why are these random facts popping up? And then once you look at it, at what it leads to, with him accepting, Batman saying that there's things in the book that aren't adding up to real life, that he knows about Adam Strange, that you're like, okay, what do all of these things mean in order, of that story? The one that stuck out to me was the one about chess, about the gambit, about you had to sacrifice the queen to win.
Yeah, that one stuck out.
This amateur had done in a chess tournament, and every other person.
I don't know if every single one is going to somehow be relatable to what's actually going on, but I feel like some of them have some thematic links.
So in that one, is the amateur sacrifice the queen, and every chess expert was like aghast by it, but it ended up leading to him winning.
But there's more intrigue as to the mystery when we get to that. And let's work through kind of what actually goes on here. Right. So the stuff on Rand is Adam returns to Alana. It's this beautiful page where they sort of touch hands and the stars behind them.
Yeah, because they time the Zeta beam, which is another thing I learned from Planet Heist is they used to be timed, that the Zeta beam stuff, and that's why he couldn't come and go as he pleased.
Yeah, I remember that. That's been a long run thing.
Right. So her timing him coming back and talking with the daughter, that was all a real nice touch. And like Pete said, it looks super, super nice over the stars, and it's this really beautiful moment of them hugging and embracing.
And he keeps going back to terrific talk, talking to Batman about why he's even asking him to do this, and like, why not do this? But Batman's like, well, because he's one of us. He's a hero. He's a superhero, whatever.
Mm-hmm. You've got like Batman just taking down like Pig in the background, which is these things.
Gerads' Pig, fantastic.
Gerads loves drawing Pig, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff. That's actually much later though, is it not?
It's all part. Yeah, I think it's all part of this though. I'm just thinking in terms of him asking Batman why. That's part of it.
Yeah, because there's stuff with setting up the actual Rand stuff before we get there. Because Rand, they're at the end of their wits here with the war that's going on, and basically Adam and Alana take this mission to go find this particular tribe of people who aren't necessarily friendly with the regime, but they might be needed in fighting this other group. Yeah, the Picts. So the Picts are the ones that they're actually actively fighting.
Yes, those are the ones we saw in the first issue.
Last issue, yeah.
And
it's the Hello Tat in this issue. Yes, that are the new ones.
They're off to fight the Hello Tat, but it's quite a journey. They leave the kid, their daughter, with her father.
It was really notable the costume change. It was very much, like Lawrence of Arabia. Yeah, I saw someone call it Adam of Strange Arabia, and I thought that was fantastic. Yeah. But like the idea here being very clear of the implication of occupation and the imperialism and the faction tribes. It's a clear allusion here.
Well, and I'm looking back to King's experiences with the CIA, and like how much of this is how the U.S. or any other force that comes in looks to play up the differences between the residents there. Because again, like the stuff that went on in Iraq, and they're still dealing with that stuff now. We
don't learn.
No, we never do. And so, and just the way that even Adam gets there is like it's a long journey even on jetpacks, right? And they end up, something happened to Alana's, or it runs out and he has to leave her behind, and he goes on it.
Notably, he was willing to sort of give him hers, or both of them go on theirs. And no, we can't risk it malfunctioning because it's taking too much weight, and your jetpack's suited to you. So me taking it would just potentially compromise the mission. Right. So you have to do this. You'll come back and you'll save me, but you can go. That's why I mentioned before I move on though. At the couple of pages where Terrific's talking to Batman again, and this is where you do actually see him fighting Pig. The art. I mean, you mentioned the Pig stuff. I actually think even more beautiful than that is Terrific running in the snow with the city behind him.
It's all gorgeous. I mentioned Pig because Gerads clearly has a thing for drawing Professor Pig, and
when it comes to atmosphere though, in the snow, the blue neon lighting of the. I like
how
city.
His T-spheres kind of line up with kind of blend in with the snow.
The colors. Yeah. Well, all of the Mr. Terrific stuff with him doing all of these seemingly like normal things, and then you look just a little bit closer and they're not normal, because he's not a normal human. You know what I mean? Like he's almost Batman plus in that way, and yeah, just because it was the weight lifting page where you look and it's like it looks just a regular workout, but he's got 3 plates on each side. Like that's not a regular person's workout. So I like that, and Gerads does it. It looks so normal, but there's always that extra layer there. But
It's
yeah,
the way for him it is normal, and that's what makes it impressive. Is by
it's mundane. That's the word that I'm looking for. It makes all these acts that are like superhuman. They just seem so mundane to Mr. Terrific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so as you were, Pete.
Yeah, so Adam ends up, his jetpack goes anyway and he crashes, and it becomes this journey. He has to kill this big, weird turtle monster thing to drink its blood. As you know, we're cutting back and forth, and Terrific still deciding. And it you know, Terrific, it tells the story of the Green Knight, which is funny because it reminded me there's a movie that was supposed to be coming out in May.
Which
I am distraught that movie isn't out yet. I was like, please put it on home release, because it was easily my most anticipated movie of the year.
Right, so I wasn't familiar. Like I've heard the story of Gawain or Gawain, however you pronounce it, in the Green Knight.
Gawain, yeah.
I did not realize this is what the actual story was.
Yeah.
And then I was like,
story.
damn, now I want to see this movie too. Like
the original story, it's pretty short, Matt. It's worth checking out.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So he talks about this but ultimately the point being is that technically, you know, Gawain kind of wins, but he doesn't actually get to keep his honor, right? That's ultimately
he keeps most of his honor.
Yeah.
Had he kept his honor, he would have came out unscathed. But the fact that he didn't, you know, he threw away his honor to win, and ultimately that's what leaves the biggest scar.
And it's,
even though it's a small you know, cut he gets.
That's the key point here is he, you know, there's 2 infractions that he does, you know, fess up to essentially, and there's just one that he doesn't, and it's that he's mostly a good person, except when his life was on the line.
Yeah, and there's obviously
he caved.
That's obviously relates to Adam Strange. It obviously relates to whatever he's not putting in his book. It relates to whatever the secrets that he's hiding are. And you know, we see him kind of like, and obviously the story we're getting in the flashbacks is the story that's going to reveal eventually whatever this secret is, whatever this shame is.
I can't wait till the final few issues where we have panel by panel back and forth between Gerads and Shayna of the story version and the real version next to it.
And it's gonna make me not like Adam Strange, and I love Adam Strange, but I already know where this is going. It's basically gonna be your heroes are still human, no matter what, and Adam's not such a great guy. I hope it doesn't go that.
Well, this is the thing.
I hope I'm being cynical.
Is it Terrific when he's about to make the choice to like take the job? He flat out tells Batman he writes that his daughter is dead. She is not, and I doubt that is the only lie. That is something that for us as readers, up until this page, we never call into question the fact that his daughter. You know, like we take that. Why would that be a lie? So the fact that Terrific looks at that and says, "No, this is obviously a lie," is intriguing. It's like, well, wait, what? Like, why is that a lie?
I wonder how much of it is because the way it reveals it to us. The panel is the foreword, like that little note. You know, it says, for my daughter, whom I lost in the war. I wonder if you know, there's an implication that she's dead, but he never actually says it in the book, and maybe lost means something else.
Something else is a double.
Right? How do you know it doesn't say it in the actual book though, in the actual text?
No, I don't. I don't. I said if.
No.
I said if he doesn't say that, I wonder if that's the case.
Because I thought that too, is that maybe that he has to sacrifice who he was, and that's like the thing of losing his daughter.
Because I'm pretty sure in issue 1, like they talk about his daughter being dead, so he clearly, even if he doesn't say it in the book, he definitely says it. You know, he talks about.
He goes along with the story. He doesn't correct them at the very least.
You know what? I'm gonna have to dig this out now and reread the first issue.
Look for the hints.
But no, because that's what the part of the first issue that really sticks out to me, besides the Shayna and Gerads dueling art, is the part with Alana dealing with the stuff, almost like she's his publicist, or she's like, I'll handle all of this. You know, and that's what I start looking at this and her jetpack, right? That's the one that malfunctions, and then that's what leads him to go by himself, and that he's being forced upon Rand as the hero. Like he's taking their mission as his own, and then that going with what Alana did in the last one that I remember. It's just stuff's not adding up, and it's really expertly in that way, you know. Almost in a Fincher kind of way, where you start noticing the the little parts, like in a David Fincher movie, that aren't adding up, and you're like, well, wait, and then it's all going to be revealed later.
It's
I'm
this
thinking
issue
of Gone
where,
Girl.
oh yeah, it is this issue where it really feels different to Mr. Miracle though for me, like where the first issue felt not the same, but the style was very similar because it's Tom King doing his 12-issue series, right? It's this one here where it's like, no, this is a detective story that we're actually telling, whereas Mr. Miracle wasn't.
No, that was a thing on, I would say, on parenthood and depression and how you deal with that being a human being. And this is sure we'll get some of that, and there might be diatribes on imperialism.
I feel like at its core it's about secrets and regret, and it's about
but
it's going to be in the trappings of a borderline traditional detective story, which obviously Mr. Miracle was not. But I'm in for this because, hey, good detective stories are kind of some of the backbones of comics, right?
Right.
Yeah. Well,
that's where DC gets its name.
I mean, that's kind of straightforward, just because the way King tells his stories, just the structure of this issue and the way it kind of even reveals that that's what the story is unconventional, even to begin with. So
I mean, I think I said traditional, not straightforward. Although maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, in the sense of
traditional, even in that sense, though, is what I mean as well.
Not in the structure or the format, but more in the feeling, the way it unravels the clues, and you kind of go, wait, something's not adding up, and it wants you to put these pieces together.
And I think what's so effective about this, though, is that the piece that it tells us is wrong wasn't obvious to us. To us, we had we suspected there was going to be more to the story, that it wasn't in the book, that there was going to be a reveal, but we didn't expect that the biggest thing at the forefront was a lie.
I think something important as well is Batman didn't know either.
Yeah.
Because that was his
I want to know...
how do you know? And so this is something so... subtle and hidden in there that even Batman didn't notice it.
Well, and also, doesn't he say that? Doesn't Holt say he's read the book numerous times by this point? By the time he decides to accept it, he talks about he's read it numerous times and stuff. So again, I want to know how he's piecing it together, and I'm here for that part of the ride.
Yeah.
And because just because Strange has lied about that, again, it doesn't mean he's lying about the death of that guy. But it doesn't make it any...
It murkies his story. It calls into question his reputation. It's okay, if he can lie about something like this, what else can he lie about?
And actually, there's maybe a question here as well. The story we're seeing play out in the flashback, is that what happened, or is that what's in his book?
That's what's in the book. That's what
that's what we're saying. But that's what we're taking it as right now. Maybe that's what we'll find out. You know what I mean? I
say that because Gerads did say quite publicly on Twitter, the Shayna stuff is what's in the book. So all that stuff that we're seeing in the past that Shayna's drawing, they're at least not just implying that to us in the story, but they are actively telling us that. Now,
so then that tells me at a certain point we're going to get Shayna drawing real world things on Earth. And then we're going to get Gerads drawing what really happened on Rand.
I know some of the stuff on Rand comes in issue 4 for Gerads. So yeah.
Which, again, I like.
Well, that's a good technique, because it means...
Stylistically,
we'll know when it's the truth. I mean, some of the stuff we're seeing might be the truth anyway, but it's obviously sugar-coated. It's obviously missing...
Right, because everyone
things.
becomes... Yeah, when you write a book of what happens, or when you tell a story, you always exaggerate a little bit, right?
It's filtered through your own...
It's this exciting thing where you've seen like TV shows and movies do it, where they'll have like a narrative technique where they'll like flashbacks. Maybe let's say, I mean, I don't have a specific example. Let's say flashbacks are in black and white, right? And there's a certain character that you only ever see in the flashbacks, but the second you see them in a color bit of footage, you're like, oh shit, like they're here now.
Yeah,
like, it has an impact.
Well, it's Memento,
sure,
right?
Well,
because Memento is about his perspective too.
I get where Matt's coming from.
I guess kind of. It's not exactly what I was getting at, but yeah, I guess kind of.
But this is why I was saying I was really excited for when we get the inevitable point of seeing Shayna's version of a panel as the story, and then Gerads showing us the real version of what actually happened. That I'm really looking forward to, and just seeing those panels side by side.
Yeah, so terrific sort of, before we had the final page where he actually comes and we get the sort of the repeat of the final moment of the first issue, is he takes like some nanotech he puts it in his mouth, and he asks the T-Sphere to ask him a question he doesn't know the answer to, and it calculates for a bit, and then asks him, what was the sex of your unborn child who died with your wife? And that's the question that he can't answer. That's what he doesn't know.
That's brutal.
And
I was like, oh, okay, thanks, King, for reminding me that you're super dark.
There's a line early on when he's first talking to Batman about, well, did you manipulate me? Did you ask me to take this job because of what happened with my wife? Because of my history? Mm-hmm. Is that why I've been picked? And Batman kind of tries to sidestep the question, but the implication might be that no, he is actually probably suited to this in some way because of that, because of where his empathies will lie, because of his experiences, on top of the fact that he's the third smartest man on the planet, and so on. I think Batman says, it's because it's fair play. We want us to be fair, and you're Mr. Fair Play. So
yeah, and he calls him a manipulative dick. Yeah.
Terrific knows what he's doing. Obviously, he's well aware of Batman and how he thinks and what his games are. But I think it's going to be an interesting tactic. Like when Terrific finds out what really happened, is it something that he sympathizes with and ultimately recommends to Batman that there's nothing to. I don't know if Batman's looking to punish Adam if he did do something wrong, but the idea of just no, he's in the clear. He has past issues, but nothing that we have to actually crucify him for. I don't know. I'm wondering if there's going to be an element of sympathy and understanding to whatever it is that Adam did. But then again, the fact that we are speculating that Adam Strange's daughter is not dead, and that either he lost her because his daughter was taken, or because he gave up his daughter for some reason. Imagine for a second that Adam chose to give up his daughter for some hard decision. The idea that Mr. Terrific's someone who lost a child with no choice. Right. How does he react to a character who gave away their child potentially? So there's things to play with there. If that's where it's going to go, it might not. It might.
Yeah.
That also plays into Mr. Miracle.
Oh yeah,
yeah, definitely. There's just one page we didn't talk about that I do want to mention. And this is Terrific. He's out on the ice. He's got the weight that he's going to throw under the ice, and he's going to swim down and get it. But that speech he gives before, how they love Adam. He's cool. Whatever. And he's got his jetpack, and they put him on kids' lunch boxes. And then he talks about how they never loved him, even when he was winning gold medals for the country, reinventing tech and saving the world. It didn't matter, and none of that ever mattered to the people for him. And the obvious the race implications are really stark here, and it's the most apparent they are in the book, where he kind of just draws attention to it. And
I think drawing attention to that here in his introduction issue, essentially. Obviously, we got the reveal of him at the end of the issue last time, but this is his introduction of what type of version of a character that he is, and what he's going to be doing, how he thinks, all that sort of stuff. I think raising that in his introduction says that it's always maybe not going to be at the forefront, but there's going to be that subtext there throughout. Whenever he does find out to some extent what Adam did on Ran to end the war, I wonder if his reaction to it, how Mr. Terrific views what he did in order to end that war.
It's kind of why I bring up the imperialism aspect as well. Feels kind of rooted in these themes.
Yeah, did Adam essentially, keep the awful people in charge that were doing a lot of bad things, and
because it's easier for it's easier for him because he knows who he's dealing with, and so I also wanted to bring up about what Mr. Terrific says in Heroes in Crisis. Because I thought it would have been, almost like a hint of what's going to happen here. And it's really not, but it is about him being the third smartest. So I thought that was pretty interesting. That this is something that King's been thinking about, at least since Heroes in Crisis with Mr. Terrific. Because he talks about when you lap the field in a race, for a while you look like you're behind. So it seems that people from the outside, you're in, let's say, third place, when in fact you're just biding your time until you lap them again. And that's the only thing I can find from him in Heroes in Crisis.
Is the implication there being that he's not the third smartest? He's actually the smartest, and he's the smartest by that much that it looks like he's behind
the third.
Yeah.
Right. And then that also with what we just brought up about him, about the racial implications and stuff too.
We should also mention that Adam does get to the alien tribe that he's looking for. and they look kind of reptilian with mohawks. I just thought that was cool.
It's a great design. I'm into them.
Right, he kind of shows up and tells them what's going to happen.
Also, there's a bit of a Ninja Turtle thing going on here where they all have different colors on and they have different like headbands, and they don't match their colors, but I was getting kind of almost like the one on the left was definitely giving me kind of like skinny Raphael kind of a vibe.
Kind of, I can see that.
Michelangelo on the right. I mean, it's probably not intentional, but it made me think of it.
I like how this story ends with the stalemate of them both pointing the gun at each other. Right in their faces, and that's the end that we get of the book story for this issue.
Yeah, the final page is them shaking hands. Although, because last time we got who it was, but it didn't show us it completely. But the final panel is a photograph that's been turned down. Did we see this photograph be put down in the first issue? I don't think we did we?
I feel like I remember talking about the photograph.
I do too.
I think again. I'd have to go back and check. I feel like this was a picture of him with his daughter, maybe.
Yeah. So this is what happens when there's like 3-4 months between issues.
Yeah. If it is his daughter, it plays into this shame that he's not telling the truth. That she is maybe not. Maybe she is alive. Maybe she's not. But the story that he's telling about her isn't true.
Yeah. So. No, a lot to dig into there. Unsurprisingly, the Tom King Maxi series is the one that ends up with a lot of discussion on, and look forward to issue 3 next month. So, and if you didn't make it clear, the art's gorgeous. So, Matt, what are you giving it?
I'm going to give this one a 9, and I can't remember what I gave the last one, but it's about the same level. I really enjoyed this one.
Connor?
Yeah, I'm going to give it an 8.5.
I'm also going to go with the 9. So there you go. That is Strange Adventures, and I almost said something else, which will not be discussed. What was that? Snicker. All right. Superman 22, Bryan Michael Bendis writing with Kevin Maguire on the art. This is finally the end of the truth, which has actually been the entire 22 issue run so far, because the truth was broken into like 3 arcs. So. Right. This is finally the ending of that entire thing, which is essentially about the formation of the United Planets.
United Planets and the fallout that has for Lois when Superman's not there because he's fighting Mongol.
Because it breaks out into 2. You've got Superman fighting Mongol in space. Mongols brought Warworld with them, and we get some gorgeous 2 pages. Kevin Maguire, of course, very strong art here. Very heavy lines and inks, all that stuff.
Kryptonian action very well. We loved his work on Supergirl. So
basically, I mean, just to mention the action stuff, I'll get that out of the way before we talk about the real meat of this. Is there's a lot of big 2-page spreads, a lot of big things. Superman, there's a great 2-page layout of Superman getting into the center of the war world and essentially getting into where the engine is, and all these like kryptonite lasers and there's like cables tangling them. And he just blasts with heat vision, and there's a glorious page of it exploding. He sort of he steers it away from Earth enough, and then it blows up. That page is gorgeous.
He's legit angry at Mongol because Mongol's gonna take it out on Earth about the United Planet stuff. Because as a conqueror, he can't have them uniting against him, and that makes his job. So he's gonna take this out because this was Superman's idea. And Superman is so upset that Mongol would do this that he kind of unleashes. And I mean, he still does it in the Superman way, where he's going to take out Mongol and do what's right. But we get to see angry Superman here, and just his suit gets burned up, and it's a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, and ultimately he ends up in Venus, and he beats the shit out of Mongol. He's got his shirt, the top of his suit's just been ripped off by this point. And he takes Mongol back to his home planet because ultimately he's not going to kill him because that's just not Superman. It does mention there's a little note here saying check out what happens to Mongol and Superman villains, now which I think already came out. Was that the story of Mongol being killed by the other Mongol and being replaced?
But by his son. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I believe so. Again, the break has ruined a lot of stuff.
But it's been a while.
I remember reading Villains.
Yes. So Superman goes to the United Planets, says, no, that exactly, Mongols attack is exactly why we have to do this. It's why we have to get this done, because the people who fight against it are exactly why we have to ensure it happens. And because my son is bent to the future and all that, we know that it does happen. So it seems like he does pull it off and he wins. But to go back and sort of talk about Lois' side of this issue, because Agent Chase, Cameron Chase, shows up and talks to Lois, and and I think this was a nice swerve because she's like, hey, is it true that your husband declared himself the ambassador, the spokesperson for Earth? And when as soon as that was introduced, it was like, oh my god, this is an interesting wrinkle to everyone kind of turning on Superman a little bit, that maybe they don't like that he said that. And I think it's actually a really heartwarming, interesting little swerve that she's there to say, we want to make it official. Because of what Superman's done for this planet, we actually want to officially give him this title and say, no, he can speak on our behalf at these intergalactic meetings. But it does make it clear that this comes with a caveat that now there's going to be so much scrutiny on him and you as well, Lois, because of this position, that there can't be mistakes. There can't be anything that makes us question his integrity or anything. And she's like, and she makes sure Lois is going to tell him, and it's this thing, and we end the issue with Clark getting back after this big meeting, after the big fight with Mongol, and he's tired. Lois is tired. She's just finished writing the book. And I loved the ending of this issue. The final page of this book is them just sort of like getting sleepy, lying in bed, falling asleep. Yeah. And Lois is like, oh yeah, there's Agent Chase was here today. Did you tell like some aliens that you could speak on behalf of Earth? And he's like, oh, I guess I kind of did. Is it a thing? He's like, no, that's fine. Chase was here. Do you want me to tell you something?
It's been handled.
But I don't remember. Yeah. I don't remember what it was. It was just this. It was a really simple beat of just showing what they're both like, and they mentioned missing John as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the narration goes back and forth between their stories, and so you get blue boxes for Superman and purple for Lois, and they both kind of talk about what's going on, on each other's page. So it was a real fun. I keep saying fun. It was a real. That's what I'm looking for. It worked really well. Bendis was telling the story.
Well constructed,
I guess. Yeah, it was a well constructed way to tell the story of why Superman is worthy of the trust of the world, and because of what he's doing with Mongol, and defending the Earth, because it's his own actions that has led Mongol on this one. So he's taking responsibility for it, and then Lois taking responsibility for Superman here, and talking with Chase, and because they keep bringing up the Daily Star, and it didn't come from the Daily Planet and Lois. It came from this other second-rate newspaper, and why was that? Why didn't Lois bring this out? But no, it's Bendis continuing what he does well, and
it's such solid character building for both characters and their relationship, and just this way of them dealing things, and the way that Lois isn't even phased by these not threats, because Chase isn't threatening them, she's just kind of making a point. But the way that Lois knows there's nothing to actually worry about because he's Superman. Right. That's not to say that others won't try and discredit him via other by other ways. Right. These papers like the Star might try something shady or whatever, but that she's not worried about it. And them falling asleep together at the end was just, there was this moment of like, just these two people who both worked really hard at what they do, and just like passing out at the end. I also really like Lois's thing of being like, no, you don't get to read my book first because you'll do it at super speed in like 30 seconds. Yeah. I want a human being to read it first who'll take them all night.
Spend time. Yeah, I want them to spend time on it. Yeah.
So that was
you wouldn't read it without telling me, because that'd be a violation of trust, right, Clark? I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
No, it was good. All the action looked fantastic.
The stuff on Warworld with him coming out and just the heat vision and the fire, the art by Maguire, and then the colors just really pop up against space and whatnot. It looks, it's really good, especially having JR art on Action for so long now. It's good to see something like this.
I think
in Superman.
This issue, and there's been a lot of stories like this admittedly since start of Rebirth, but I think this issue is another sort of example that I would hold up and say, any decision that was made at once upon a time to kill the marriage of Lois and Clark because they didn't want them to be married because you run out of story ideas. This entire issue, Lois' side of this issue, is about how like what it's like to be married to Superman and how that mixes with her job and the ethical questions that come up, the questions, especially once you add in the new status quo of like everyone knowing who he is.
Right.
Like there's so much interesting drama to explore and how that functions and how they support each other even in this weird, wild new world that they're in. And it's like, no, the difficult thing is coming up with new ways of making them like only just starting to flirt interesting, because we've done that. Like we have to go through that motion every single time we do a new Superman like retcons in the movies or the TV shows or whatever. Some do it better than others, and sometimes it's still really fun. But in the comics, like there's so much, and giving up on all that history is a detriment, because you feel the weight of that history in books like this, and you feel it in things like Metal and other things that we talk about. But
well, you just know that Lois and Clark trust each other at the end of the day, and that's what everything's built on. Is this trust between them? It goes without saying with them, and I like that, and I think Bendis really drove that point here by, her just being like, oh yeah, Chase stopped by, I handled it. That's the main point of her talking to him like that.
It genuinely feels like there's been years of history, decades even of history, and that feeling when it's nailed in a comic book, it feels like the history all matters.
Yep.
Makes it work, and everything that informs how they treat each other, how they talk to each other, the way Lois views her position as being Superman and Clark's wife. It's all fascinating stuff. So I think this was a really solid capper, and it's not the capper I expected to this story, and I think I appreciate that as well, that it's a more different downbeat kind of ending that feels like it has a point. It says, next, the fall of the planet and the Doctor of Fate. The planet, I assume, is the Daily Planet, and the Doctor of Fate. I'm not sure if that's Dr. Fate or if again it's a play on words and it's actually something else.
We'll see.
Yeah. But I'm intrigued. This was another one where it's been such a long time since the last issue, because I think the last issue was before the break. So I don't remember exactly how that one ended, but I know Superman was fighting Mongols, so everything still worked.
Yeah, Warworld was on its way, I believe, because he was upset about the United Planets. So.
I just got that from context. I didn't really remember that specifically happening, but yeah. So
that was the one thing I remembered, because I remember picking up the issue and being like, oh yeah, Mongol was here.
I actually remembered Chase showing up to talk to Lois more than I did the Mongol stuff for whatever reason. But there you go. That is issue 22 of Superman. So we'll see where he goes next. Especially since this was essentially one big 22 issue arc in a lot of ways. Not really, but kind of. So what are you giving it, Matt?
I'm gonna give this an 8.5.
Your Mike, that can have something. I will. What am I giving this? That's a good question. The art's good. I really like what it does with Lois. I like what it does with the fight. I think I have to go 8.5 as well. Yeah, really good. Yeah, I'm having a
common number this week.
I'm having a good week. Yeah, I've had a 9 to 8.5s. I'm having a solid week of comics so far.
Yeah, me too.
We'll see if that lasts as we go through the books here, but it seems to be going well so far. So the Flash Annual, issue 3, Joshua Williamson writing with Steven Segovia on the art. So this is an interesting one, because I don't think I knew this in advance, but I learned later that, of course, this is more of a Suicide Squad story. It ties in heavily to what Boomerang was up to.
I'll just say my quick reaction to this is Williamson can write Boomerang anytime. I think his Boomerang, for all of his faults and all the different versions we've seen, I loved how we played with what we're getting the FBI. It's the FBI, right? Talking to Boomerang.
I think so. Yeah.
In his version that went down versus what actually went down, and I just
let me
a fun.
Let me give the premise of this here, right? So it's the FBI talk to Boomerang, and it's set after the events of the previous Suicide Squad issue, and this is where it really is more of a Suicide Squad issue than it is a Flash issue, because the events slot into between two issues of Suicide Squad. And everything that's happening follows on from Boomerang's involvement in what just happened in Suicide Squad. They reference everything else that happens in the last issue of Suicide Squad. This feels like, see when this is in a trade, this absolutely has to be in the Suicide Squad trade.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no question.
I said at the start, I think the only reason that this is in the Flash book as an annual rather than a Suicide Squad annual is that the Flash sells reasonably well. and presumably better than Suicide Squad. I haven't got the figures to back that up right now, but as a rule, I'm sure that's probably true. And the idea is, hey, maybe if we put this as an annual here, all the Suicide Squad readers will see that at the end of the last issue anyway, and they'll go and buy it, so they're not missing out. And the people who read Flash and would just read the annual because it's a Flash annual might go back and pick up Suicide Squad because they like what's going on here with this group of characters.
Yeah, obviously Flash does show up, and he is, he's a relatively prominent character in this one issue, but he's not. I mean, I was
the focus.
I was still, Boomerang's definitely the main character, and then I would say the Suicide Squad feel more important to this issue than the Flash does for the most part. So, Flash is there, and Boomerang's telling this story, and I don't think it's clear early on necessarily that this is like Boomerang's weird.
I think first panel where the Flash shows up, like a couple of pages after the title sequence, where the Flash runs in with like a burger and a drink.
Yep.
It's like, okay, I know exactly what's going on immediately from that point.
Because we see the Suicide Squad, they're on the run after fleeing the Suicide Squad, the Task Force X headquarters.
Just taking out Locke.
Yeah. So it follows directly on from that last Suicide Squad issue. And he takes them to a hideout that the Rogues had in Central City, and they're questioning if they should be here or not. The Flash does show up like almost immediately. And there's a lot of banter here, and I will say that I do think, I don't think I like the dialogue in this as much as I do in the regular issues of Suicide Squad. I do think Tom Taylor does have better dialogue, but that's not to say that Williamson has bad dialogue. In fact, the dialogue for the most part is really fun. In fact, I'd go even further and say this is the best issue of the Flash that he's written in quite some time.
I think for me this is actually kind of frustrating in that I like Boomerang in short doses. It turns out I don't like a full issue like this of Boomerang. Especially of Boomerang doing Flash's dialogue, essentially, because a lot of it just felt off, and it wasn't. I know it's intentionally. This is Boomerang's take on Flash. I get that, but for me, that wasn't that enjoyable to read for that much of it. The novelty of it wore off pretty quickly.
I
disagree with that. Yeah, this was fun.
I liked it throughout because it was like, oh, okay, Boomerang does have this weird charm to him. Like, he's just this trashy guy, but here it's almost like this is almost his redemption at work. So but no, I do like that, and I like when Slade shows up and just the stuff that Boomerang says with Slade. There's that interpersonal stuff between them that I thought it all worked really well. I thought it was a fun read, and especially when you get to the end, and then you kind of see why it's more of a Flash. I feel like Williamson kind of was like, the Suicide Squad, it's pretty key in that, but this is also part of my Flash ongoing thing.
Is it? I don't agree with that at all. How's this part of the Flash ongoing book?
Just the very ending, I think, of bringing Boomerang
the very
back
end with Cole.
Oh, sure.
The Rogues, and I feel like there's that thread here of, when the last time we read Flash, Reverse Flash is going to start the Reverse Flash family. And I don't think the Rogues are going to be too keen on there being two Flash families. You know what I mean?
Honestly, I would say this is more Williamson putting the pieces back for the next writer, because I don't think he's got enough time on his run now to do another bit with the Rogues, really.
I do think they're going to pop back up, because I don't think once I heard that with him reaching back out with Cole's got something up his sleeve going on.
Yeah, maybe I genuinely don't feel. I feel like this. Okay, you can argue it's a Flash book because it's got Boomerang as the main character, and he's traditionally a Flash character, and you've got the Flash showing up as well as an appearance here. But like, this is way more relevant to Suicide Squad than it is to Flash.
No, sure, but at
more.
the same time, it rounds itself back out as the Flash. You know what I mean? Like,
but I feel like the ending just kind of works on its own. I don't feel like. If Boomerang does show up in Flash soon, I don't think we need to have a story explain how he ended up back with the Rogues.
I think it was more Williamson just while he was there. Let's just throw him back.
It feels like the ending feels like a fun beat, but we're not there yet. We've got a lot of stuff before then, because we have Suicide Squad debating like how they even deal with the Flash. They try to fight him briefly, but they get the idea. And Barry's going to help them get to this basically this knockoff invisible jet. The government tried to make a knockoff of Wonder Woman's jet, which honestly sounds very plausible.
Very, very plausible, yeah.
Yeah, that they would try and do such a thing. And Barry's like, okay, you know what? try to do your best. I mean, again, this is all through the filter of Boomerang, but clearly a plan was made here. And we get to kind of, I mean, obviously there's the plan that we think's happening, and then there's the plan that it really was happening.
Mm-hmm.
But we have the Boomerang mobile, which is Barry like a horse pulling a carriage with speeding to the middle of the desert, and everyone cracking jokes about it being some sort of perv van, and the smell being really bad, although Harley likes it for some reason. And there is some fun dialogue here. There's some really fun stuff later, especially when it gets more overt with it being Boomerang's version of everything. You know, when Boomerang, because Deathstroke shows up in his what was it you call it?
Buggy, I think
His death buggy is what.
That's what Boomerang.
That's what Boomerang calls it.
Same that Deathstroke said.
Yeah. So, Deathstroke's fighting the various squad members. He's fighting Flash. He's fighting ultimately Boomerang, and we get some really ridiculous stuff where Boomerang. I don't know about you guys, but the sentence you just got boomeranged, cracked me up. You know, and obviously, I mean, if you weren't getting that something wasn't quite right here, the page where Deathstroke decapitates the Flash is like, okay.
Right. So honestly, this might be the least plausible bit in the issue for me. Not that the decapitation. I know that's fake, but the actual version where Barry vibrated through it and played dead or something. I don't really know. Clearly something went on. But the idea that would be enough to fool Deathstroke feels very implausible to me.
I guess I don't know. I don't. I was too busy having fun to care. I don't.
Yeah, that's me too. I was just like, okay, well, because I know I kind of agree with Connor, but then I was like, well, I feel like Deathstroke's not. If there's any character that has a huge difference in who's writing him, it's Deathstroke.
I feel like
I definitely think that Priest Deathstroke would not fall for that whatsoever, right? But there are versions I feel that would just like, oh, okay, well, whatever.
Yeah, I feel like the details of what actually happened before the ending, because it's all through Boomerang's lens, are just like almost like completely
No, there's a bit that's actually Flash's narration.
No, I know there is, but like I feel like the actual details, I mean, it doesn't really matter. Like it's not a big deal.
No, but that's the bit that I'm getting. But like Boomerang's version of it all, I can say, oh well, it's just Boomerang. It was this bit where it was Flash's narration of the events. That's where it bothered me.
I think you're taking this too seriously.
I'm sorry. For me, the point here is Flash does take it seriously in comparison to Boomerang, so it should feel more serious, and I should treat it more seriously because this is the quote unquote real events. And the fact that it still just didn't line up to me and felt like an out, it fell off for me.
I mean, okay, I guess. I just
had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, like, I don't feel like it needs an out.
I wasn't
though.
Thinking about it too hard.
The tone of the whole thing is so lighthearted and jovial. And stuff when after they fly off, because Boomerang, of course, makes himself out to be this hero that took down Deathstroke, and of course the agents aren't buying it at all. But as he's telling this part of the story, the Suicide Squad are in the jet flying off. So, and I'm just going to read them all out here because they're all really funny. Captain Boomerang saved us. He's the greatest hero of all time. A damn legend. Our savior. He truly is Captain Boomerang, which is a reference to earlier when she just called him Boomerang and he corrected her.
Right.
And then the best one, of course, is Chaos Kitty. Someday I'll have his boomer babies.
Stupid. And that's I think Boomerang. I feel like Williamson's got that voice down where you're just like, God, he's the worst. No one would say that.
Strip it in the best way possible. And then you get the page of what really happened during the Deathstroke Boomerang fight, which was just Deathstroke beating the everlasting piss out of Boomerang.
Oh yeah.
Because of course it was. But Barry comes and says, no, you've earned an actual shot, and there's kind of this joke at the end where Barry, I mean, obviously explains what actually happened, which is basically just the jet was a ruse and the squad are elsewhere. But Boomerang gets taken to Australia, and he's told, hey, like, you've actually done enough to earn a second chance. Don't fall into your bad ways again. And he even calls him mate. You know, don't come back around like a boomerang. And then he gets a text from Captain Cold saying, hey, we've got a thing. Are you in?
Yep.
And he sort of has this. He looks over to where the Flash just ran off. He looks back at his phone, and he's like, "I'm back!" And I laughed. I laughed quite a bit. The last page made me laugh because it's like, "Yep." After all that, immediately the first hint of like, "Oh, I could do something shady," he's into it again.
Yeah, because he'll never change. He's a boomerang always comes back.
No.
You know?
I thought this was delightfully funny.
Yep.
Also, there's like 3 artists on this. I only said Segovia. There's also Brandon Peterson and Carlo Pugulayan. No, I thought this was a delightful one shot. Not quite up to the immaculate quality that Taylor has on Suicide Squad.
No.
But I like this more than any issue of the regular Flash book in quite some time.
Yeah, I mean, it helped there was no paradox BS going on too. Maybe you just got to tell
obviously
a fun story. You know, it wasn't steeped in everything that's been going on in Flash. And that
it's a pretty low bar, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So, like, yeah, you know.
Well, yeah, it's a low bar, but I'm saying that even if it wasn't a low bar, I'd say I'd still really like this issue.
So, then what you rating it?
That's a solid 8 for me. I had a lot of fun.
Damn it. Me too. It's an 8 as well.
Yeah, and I'm not going to let that fly, by the way. I'm not answering that first again. I'm not falling for that trick. Yeah, menace. What are you giving it, Carter?
5.5. Like I said, I was into it at first, but the boomerang shtick, I got bored of it quite quickly. And I thought, I really felt the shifting 3 different artists. It was a lot. It was a bit messy for me. Overall, I just kind of wasn't that into it. I got a bit bored by the end.
Captain Boomerang of the show.
Unfortunately, he always comes back. Yes, I agree, Matt.
I was waiting for him to argue with me.
I was just like, when I give my score like that, and you two are just so into it, and I'm not. There's no point in me saying anymore. I've learned that. I've just like, I'll take these. That's it. I'm done.
Hawkman 24, Robert Venditti writing, Fernando Pasarin on the art. Take it away.
Oh, so this picks back up on the, the story that Venditti's been telling about Qatar Deathbringer, and so they end up. This is the place beyond the void. This is where they were bringing all those people from the planets when he was Qatar.
Back in the first arc.
Right in the first, and basically he has to come to terms that that's not who he is anymore, and yet time has gone on differently here. And then while he's fighting, these first the people that he brought there who are basically slaves start attacking him. The wingmen that he was the leader of realize who this is, and it's the one that betrayed them by sending them here. So him and Shira get to team up and take them all out. So it's a really action-oriented issue.
Pasarin kills as well.
Yeah, and then Shira gets her memories as well.
It's a great emotional beat early on where, he asks, how much do you remember about all our past lives? And she's like, I'm not sure. I always thought there was a bit more than just this life, but I've never been certain. And she's like, looking at the big monolith and being like, it kind of feels familiar.
It feels
but I don't
familiar,
know what
but she can't put her finger on it. And then
he mentions, hey, no, this was in my first life, and assuming hers too. And she goes, you were there, let that anchor you. And you just have this close-up couple of panels of her remembering from that meeting from the first arc.
Yep. And then you look, and there's a bunch of other Hawkwomen, like we got with Carter. These different moments of them together.
And it's her kind of having just that moment of realization and kind of realizing, just how deep their relationship is again.
Yep. So, yeah, just the beats of him realizing where they are and then the place beyond the void, and then him basically getting, beating all the wingmen, because he still is Qatar Deathbringer. Like, he's still the one.
Oh, he can take him out, and she can take him out too. And she's making fun of him, being like, hey, if you train this army, couldn't you have done a better job? And he's
right.
Like, well, I didn't know I'd have to fight you.
Right. And then, at the end, the one that's responsible for all of this, he's what's he called? The God beyond the void, or the voice?
But just before that, we have the last Deathbringer standing, who has Shara. He has her by the throat.
That's right.
And he's like, you drop that mace right now, or I'll just crush her throat. And she has a great line, because he's hesitating, like not sure what to do. And he just said, she goes, "Why is this peacock still clucking, Carter? Stop overthinking." And then he just, throws the mace at his face, and it's gorgeous.
Yeah, and then we get to the big bad, and man, I feel like we're
Yeah.
getting towards the end of something, and I don't want that because I'm enjoying everything that Venditti's doing here.
I know. I'm trying to find the name of it. It was the Lord Beyond.
The Lord Beyond the Void. Yeah.
Yeah, the Lord Beyond the Void, and
So,
this issue, because the last 11 issues or so, I don't know if we had an annual in there or not. I can't remember.
yeah.
Have felt very not separate from that first arc, but that first arc was this 12-issue epic origin.
Yeah, and then it
And
tied in to what's been going on with the Year of the Villain, and it's been bringing in the supporting cast that
Right.
we
And it's
associate
into
with Hawkman.
these various things, and then you get to this issue, and it's all like
Throwback.
this could have been right after the first arc, essentially.
Mhm.
Barring the relations.
Well,
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, well, it's built up Shayera again, and why she's so important to Carter, and that's what those have done. And then here it ties her into his past as the original, the redheaded woman that righted him, that basically led to him having to repent all those lives that he put away.
Like following up on that first arc, essentially a full year's worth of issues later.
Mhm.
I think it's slightly longer because of the break, but
right.
in terms of the issue count,
it's up there to me with Aaron's Thor and how he laid the foundation with the God Butcher stuff.
that was actually a good comparison because it had this first arc that was phenomenal, and you kind of go, well, he's never going to top this.
No.
And then over the time, the course of the saga builds on it in incredible ways, and by the end, that's not the highlight of that run.
No, it's pretty high up there.
It's still it's still a great standalone story, but it's not the high point of the run like you thought it would have been.
And everything comes from those first that first arc, and I feel like here, maybe he's not ready towards the end. Maybe this is just the start, right? And now they're on the same page.
In a similar comparison, that story that Aaron had there, that was 11 issues, I think.
Yeah.
And then at a comparison, roughly similar point to this would have been almost the end of that first book, the God of Thunder book.
Right, God of Thunder 25. So.
Yeah, so it would have been going into, all right, we're going into the next stage of the story, but by no means the end. If this is Venditti shaping up for a 60 to 100 issue run, I'm here.
And it is.
Oh boy, this is so good.
Yeah, so I went back and read some of the first Rand Thanagar stuff, and Hawkman's always been this weird character that kind of feels like he doesn't have a place, and I feel like Venditti's finally giving him that place. That he is the historical guy, but he's also the space guy. And it's weirdly, he is kind of DC's Thor in that way now.
He kind of is. And I love that we're doing this here now. And we know in a few issues' time, we're going to be dealing with the JSA.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so excited for everything this book does. It's even if I don't rate it the highest this week, it's a very good week. It remains top tier as one of my favorite ongoing DC books.
Yeah. And it helps too that always gets the good art, like you said. It's Pasarin here.
There's a great 2-page splash right as they're about to go into battle. The two of them flying out next to each other, and it's just so good.
Yeah, and this really leans into the cyclical nature of these two, that they always have each other, no matter what, and that she'll be there, and she's the whole reason he is who he is now, and they're gonna face this together. It's just. I mean, from the time that first issue with the Stone Ape, right? It keeps delivering these epic moments, and this one's no different. Like you said, with them suiting up.
This is a book where, like I say, that first arc was fantastic, and it is probably a quintessential Hawkman story for the ages at this point.
Yep.
And I thought, okay, that might be the high point of the run overall, being that one artist do this whole 12-issue story that was this epic origin that spanned millennia. But then now we're here. I'm like, oh, that's just kind of the beginning. Yes, this feels kind of like an ending in some senses, that we're closing off this chapter of this run, maybe by coming back to the Lord Beyond the Void and dealing with that here. But we know the book's not ending. We know there's more to come after this. So I'm excited for what it's going to set up next.
Yeah. Well, see, now I compared to Thor, and now I'm seeing a lot more there, and now this is just my wheelhouse, because you also have all the Hawkman stories, just like you have all the young Thor stories. because I don't know where you left off on Thor. I don't know if you ever finished.
I finished it, yeah.
Yeah, so there's that story of Loki basically messing with Thor to keep him on Earth with his with the Viking wife that he had, and him being responsible for her death and going to Valhalla, and
Yeah,
Thor
that was
can't
in
get
the
there.
last part of the run, right?
Yeah. And so I feel like that you could tell a story like that here with Hawkman, and it's weird that I was in quality comparing it to what Aaron did with Thor
But
and telling this whole
in terms
layered
of its
story.
storytelling mechanics, there's actually a lot of similarities.
There's a lot of similarities.
Journal for these past lives, like we did with the
Right.
before. Maybe we'll do some future Hawk stuff at some point. Wouldn't
Yeah.
surprise me.
I would love that. Yeah, because you had the whole character in the Batman Beyond universe that I love. That was he was all metal, Hawkman. And he was called Warhawk.
Yeah, I think he showed up in. Was it Death Metal?
Maybe
No,
I can't remember
when they went to the future. When
oh, he did, because it was all the Earths with the Commandy.
Yeah, we had
them
with the
yeah.
team.
That's right.
There.
That is, he did. So, but yeah, I'm still loving this book. It's my favorite. So, I'm gonna give it an 8.5.
Yep. Another 8.5 from me.
Yeah.
Cool. That was a thing.
It was. You should be reading it.
It's missing out on the best ongoing book.
The best ongoing book.
It is.
Batman.
And I say that as a Superman fan that's enjoying Superman and all that stuff, but his Hawkman is a delight every month.
Yes. Well, I mean, both me and Matt are missing out on the best ongoing book. Red Hood's a thing, and Connor gets to read that. So.
How dare you? How dare you, sir?
All right, Batman The Outsiders, issue 13, Bryan Hill and Gleb Melnikov. Notably, that is not Dexter Soy. Did we say in the solicits that Dexter Soy is back later? Is this just a fill-in, or is it switched for the arc?
I can't remember.
Yeah, deer in the headlights. Yeah, that's fine.
Yep.
I don't know either.
I do know I don't mind. Like, it's not Dexter Story, but it's also there's this cartooniness to it that I enjoy. It almost has a Bogdanovich Capullo kind of vibe, but not quite.
Well, yeah, the art's not bad.
Go out on a limb and say that he was still in the solicits for this book, because last week, unless Melnikov had a story in one of the 100 pages. Because I remember talking about him recently, because this is the artist that was doing that thing on Twitter with the Superman's neck. So I obviously brought him up for a reason. So it's very likely it was the solicits.
Yeah. So yeah, this issue basically boils down to two things. It's Black Lightning talking to Batman, and Batman talking about Ra's al Ghul's device, the fact that the weapon's not really supposed to be a weapon, it's just a weapon because Ra's has turned it into one. He brings in Martian Manhunter to try and basically it doesn't have any concrete knowledge. It's basically just the stories and hearsay from back on Mars. There was rumors of this ancient culture, so on and so on. And we get that kind of thing. And ultimately, it seems to just build up to the last page where Batman's like, hey, we're going to try and supercharge you so that you can, your powers can counteract this. And
counteract the beam.
It whips out something that looks like some sort of weird medieval torture device. It's basically this big electric chair that
mixed with a mech, because there's some mech qualities to it.
So his plan is to basically turn on the power to give Black Lightning more power to make him supercharged, I think.
Yeah. But I feel the better beat here was Katana versus Shiva for the soul of the two young ones.
Oh yeah, that's the other plot. Yeah, it's because you see Cass and Duke are just sparring and doing whatever, but the two ladies who claim they're not going to fight, as soon as the kids leave the room, are like, yeah, we're going to fight. And Shiva's basically like, hey, if I win, then those kids will be allowed to have the option to go with me to take on Raz rather than wait, because Batman's ordered everyone to be on the bench just now to not go after Raz. And Katana's like, well, fine, but if I win, blah blah blah. It doesn't matter though, because there's a scene of Cass and Duke talking about what Batman's up to and does he have a plan, should we trust him? And Katana just comes stumbling down the stairs looking like she's been half stabbed, going, Lady Shiva would like to speak to you in the dojo.
Yeah. And so, see, part of me though feels like Katana feels that they should be given the option, because that's her whole. I mean, she wields a sword with her dead husband in it. She's not the cleanest of heroes either.
Are you saying that she threw the fight because she believed that they should have a choice?
Maybe, because the fact that we didn't get to see the fight, I feel is still going.
I got a good chuckle of her just sort of like coming in saying,
"Yeah, well, me too."
Lady Shiva would just like to see you now.
Yeah.
No explanation.
And
just...
so, but it wouldn't be out of character either way. Like if she did get beat by Shiva, Shiva is a accomplished martial artist and whatnot. But yeah, ultimately they should make their decision, right? And that's the kind of also what Black Lightning's been trying to get through Batman's head. Like these kids really aren't your soldiers to be doing this. Like I'm a principal, I know student behavior. So, but the fact that they're given the choice here, I
so
really like.
So they go with Shiva to Shiva's like apartment, and I don't see anything good coming from that, quite frankly.
No, not at all. But and again, I feel like Cass knows this with her mom. Like deep down, like yes, she is orphan, right? And she feels like she doesn't have any ties to it. But I also don't believe that Shiva is that changed person that wants to be in her daughter's life for those reasons.
Yeah, because she mentions that they may even have to save Batman if Batman's too foolish to see what's really happening here. We do get a scene with Raz where we see him with the weapon, and we see that it's harming him, like it's actually causing him some physical distress. And his his second in command, his henchman, is like, he's worried about him, and Raz is like, I've got a Lazarus pit, don't you worry about me. A bit of pain's a small price to pay. But basically they're planning on setting demands for all the big nations of the world, and if they do not comply, they'll start using their weapon on various cities. Because we saw proper destruction in that last issue. It was really well done. This issue almost falters by comparison just because it's so low key and set up-y.
Yeah.
Compared to a lot of the last few issues we had. So it's solid stuff though. I mean, I'm a little disappointed that Dexter Soy's not on art, because like his art was wonderful, and it was so consistently there for the first 12 issues. Maybe barring one, I think there was one fill-in in that first 12. But like the art still looks pretty good. It's definitely not displeasing, I'll say that. And I'm liking what they're building up to here. But this is very much just everyone talking about where they're going next, as opposed
it's
to
definitely it's a next chapter issue. Yeah.
Which is interesting because this is billed as part one of the new arc, and it's kind of one of these books where it's technically split into arcs, but because I remember thinking it was really weird what they called the end of the first arc and the start of the second arc, and thinking that the trades for this, if they're actually split there, are going to feel really weird, because honestly it's one big 12-issue arc or whatever it was.
Right, yeah, because the other one began with the death of his friend, Black Lightning's friend, instead of ending with it, which would seem to be the more logical. But yeah, this is almost the next chapter, but it's still a good chapter. Yeah.
I'm interested about this. It's interesting to see like the Outsiders kind of split up for a while and see how this was, because I feel like we're still not at the point where they've really committed to being a team. It doesn't feel like they've truly formed yet.
No, because it's still Black Lightning's doing his thing, and Katana's associated with him and Batman, and they're all kind of arguing about the kids. These are like the adults trying to make the decisions for the kids. The kids are like, hey, wait, we're old enough to have a voice. And so that's why I really like the Shiva section of this, going like, yeah, you don't have to agree with their choice, but it's their choice to make.
Yeah, I think
so weirdly, she's the adult in the room.
Yeah, I think the Shiva stuff with the kids is probably my favorite part of this issue as well. Yeah. I agree with that. I mean, I'm enjoying it though, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes next. But this is very much a setup issue. There's no denying that. Because the last issue had that gut punch of here's what's happening in the city that he's attacking, and it was like, whoa, this is rough. Anyway, I mean, admittedly, it's actually been that long since that issue, because that was one that we've already had an issue of this since we came back. All right, Matt, what are you giving this one?
I'm gonna give this a 7.5. It's good. It's along those lines.
Yeah, I would give it a straight 7. Yeah, it's good, but it's not an exceptional issue. The art's a bit of a downgrade, but again, it's not bad. It's just not what it was. So, there you go. That is Batman and the Outsiders issue, whatever number it was. I don't have a mystery. It's 13. It was 13. Yes, that makes sense. The Question: The Deaths of Vic Sage, issue 3. Jeff Lemire writing with Dennis Cowan on the art. Do you know? if there's a book this week that suffered from, because this was actually not just the lockdown delay. This was already delayed before that, I think. So this was a huge gap.
So the 4th issue was supposed to come out the day this came out.
Well,
there you go.
Yeah, and I know Wonder Woman Dead Earth came out this week, and me and Pete were reading that beforehand.
That was a victim of the gap.
Yeah, there's a problem when it was already an extra few months, but these were both bi-monthly books already at best.
Yeah.
And it's just they just suffer, and this just goes to prove that delays can hurt books. We spoke about a lot over the last few weeks that some books have fared better than others. Coming back to it, we've struggled with some things. We've not enjoyed certain books issues as much as we might have done if they'd just been on the normal schedule.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's all very, it's case by case, because I feel like there's books that are so memorable or that you just like so much that no delay is ever going to hurt it. It's Doomsday Clock was basically bulletproof. From a quality point of view, that was bulletproof from the delays.
Yeah, I think when you've got that much in every issue, it was okay.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of just, the standard monthly books that we're reading. There's a lot of them that we've come back to this month and been like, this probably would have been better. We probably would have enjoyed it more if we'd just not had the delay.
Yeah, but that doesn't apply to these books, though, because Wonder Woman Dead Earth is like a 60-page book. In fact, one of the reasons why I said, you know what, I think I just have to let this be a victim of the gap is because not only do I barely remember the first 2 issues, it's also 60 pages, and that's a lot to get to. And obviously the question Death of Vic Sage issue 3 is, again, it's a longer issue. It's been a long time since issue 2. I think the reason why that won out quite easily is because I just like it a bit more. I remember liking it more. Jeff Lemire, of course, has a good track record with all 3 of us.
I like Dennis Cowan's art, and it's worth mentioning, I completely forgot when we were doing the news. He was talking about the milestone relaunch is back on track. The legal issues that they had have been sorted out. They were literally just sorted, and they were just getting back on track with the plans, and then everything shut down for a few months. But it's we should be getting a milestone relaunch maybe in 6 months, a year.
That's interesting stuff. So as soon as I started, though, I mean, there's a lot of details I couldn't remember, but I did remember we ended with like the noir setting. Yep. And that's what and he's waking up and he's having memories of like a man with no face and a woman with red hair and
a man with 1,000 faces.
And a man with 1,000 faces.
Honestly,
what's it all mean?
That is to remind him of things was perfect for us in a weird way, right? That you see that and you went, oh yeah, that was a thing.
I still kind of forgot the Richard Dragon stuff that was going on, so when he popped up, I was like, who's that guy again? And then by the end, you end up remembering.
Yeah, it's funny because at one point he has a couple of like sort of flashback moments where he's starting to like see glimpses of the other like versions and the other timelines. And at one point he sees a TV studio, and I went, oh, I remember this. But it wasn't until the very end where I realized, oh, that was the original one that we started, and that's the main story is actually taking place in. These last 2 issues, issue 2 and this one, are basically his like weird like trip into the past lives of Vic Sage.
Vic Sage
to see the history of this villain.
And he's Charlie Sage in this one, and he's a private detective, and it's so noir, like down to the tropes.
Yeah, I will say
more noir as if it was black and white.
I will say this. I think this is out of all the settings so far, this is the one that actually, I think, lends itself to the most to Cowan's art. I feel like it really feels like it belongs here.
It's the one that most feels inherently that lends itself to the question as well.
Well, this is when I think of the question, this is what I think. Even though I, again, knows next to nothing about the question, he feels just with his getup like he's a 40s, noir, and then you start talking about the girl shows up, the redheaded, femme fatale, if you will, looking for her brother. Charlie takes it. She tries to pay and all this other, and I've seen enough of these movies to go, oh no, there's something up with her, right? And then so it leads it. Her brother was trying to unionize the factory that they both work at in Hub City, which leads to some problems. Charlie picks it up, and then that's when it starts getting weird, right?
It's how he immediately gets jumped, even though he's not done anything yet to provoke anyone.
Yeah, it's basically just the mere fact that he's looking into this. They're after him. They're after him already because powerful people don't want this to be exposed. So you're sort of questioning, like, how could they do it this quickly? Like, what exactly is going on here?
Right.
And I do like that there's a full page spread of him walking down the street in his trench coat, which looks very similar to the cover. He's not got his mask on, obviously, but it's a very similar image of him walking down with the Dutch camera angle.
It's gorgeous, isn't it?
So wonderful stuff. A lot of atmosphere here. He's in the alleyway of the rain. Looks fantastic. But he has this moment though when he's been beaten up by these thugs, where he looks over and sees Richard Dragon, and it's like
doesn't get up.
It's like he's entranced by another version of himself, where his face becomes the faceless question.
And Dragon calls him Vic.
Yeah.
Right.
And he gets up and starts, basically takes everyone on, and then he's left standing there after the fact and just being like, "Oh, what the hell's going on?
What just happened?
What did I just do?" So he calls it the one good cop he knows who's not corrupt to get him some info.
Who's Tot, which is his his friend in the real world. It's the one good cop, and he's been waiting for him. And they talk about the case and that this, there's very powerful people.
Matt, I'm glad you remembered that because I did not remember that from issue 1.
And
knows his stuff.
The more that I kept reading, the more it started coming back.
It does come back to you over time, doesn't it?
I felt like Charlie Sage. Like, I think in his shoes here.
It did to a point. Joe hurt this, I think, a little bit more than maybe some of the other books where we started off feeling like, oh, it's been a while, I can't remember, and then it starts to come back as you're reading it. Is I think because this is in this like other timeline and it's so separate from what the original narrative is that you don't get as many contextual clues as you normally do. It's all these kind of like quick teases of things that you're like, okay, like there's not actually a lot of context here to take it on. It's just flashing the images here or there. So it's a little bit tougher, but I can't really blame the book for it. It's not its fault there was a pandemic.
But it still stands alone. If this is just the story, the question is Charlie Sage investigating the union busting, because he ends up, he gets some information about her, who's the girl's Maggie, right? About Maggie. They go talk to the mom, and the mom is like, well, no, this I knew they were going to get into trouble trying to form a union. They're going to be here. So she's at the strike. So they go to a strike. The factory owner and the mayor call the police in, and it's just chaos.
Well, the one
it's on the way there that he has the flash of the Western timeline.
Yeah, the TV studio one was when he was getting beat up. It was just before the dragon appearance. It was that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's walking down the street and he sees the old West Town instead, which I presume is the exact same street, just
right.
Several decades earlier.
Probably. I realize this though because he kind of collapses against the wall, like it's kind of coming at him at once, and it's overwhelming him.
Right.
And then he looks up, and then we see what he's seeing. It's really well done.
Yeah, and kind of a riot breaks out because someone throws a bottle at the factory manager.
Weird how Lemire, how this lines up with events.
I know it's so.
And I've been listening to a lot of historical stuff about this, and I just listened to one about strikes during the 40s, and they were called riots, even though most of the time nothing had really happened. But in order to get the public on the side of the factory, they would call them riots and make it look. And I'm like, this is going on right now. What the hell?
Yeah. Of course, the difference being is that back then there was no people with phones and cameras and social media to kind of disprove what the story is.
That's why I'm learning it now. 60, 80 years later. I
like how you just suddenly realize, shit, we're not in 2000 anymore.
No, we're not. Yep, I did. I had to do the quick math.
That's the thing. So anyway, he goes off looking because Maggie's taken away in a car, not to the police station. No, she's taken elsewhere. He goes looking for her. He gets knocked out, and he wakes up. It's all these druid-looking figures with the hoods on, and it's the same people that he had on his murder wall, the suspects, the exact same people. And he's taken to. I was thinking the CBS logo in my head as I was seeing this. To be honest, the eye.
The eye.
Yeah,
I can see it.
But he goes in and he finds this skeleton again, and this is where it kind of really ties into that first issue, the Zaz thing with the many faces, and then we get there's a gorgeous page where the two different versions of the question are behind them, kind of in the mist and the smoke.
Yeah.
And basically, this woman who, although I think we see the real woman also lying dead in here after a page.
Because the mini face.
Yeah.
Takes the forms, and so of course it looks like she was a femme fatale, but it wasn't. So was Maggie? He has that question now. Was she the mini face person, or which one was he dealing with? So it just adds more to his questions.
I think my impression was that it was the real person when she went to the office to see him, but
right.
But here it was a trick to.
That's the assumption, but the doubt is in his mind as to was this the ploy the whole time.
Mainly because we don't really have any other context for it. It feels like almost irrelevant that it wasn't really her the whole time.
Well, no, but again, it adds to that question of him and the name of the character, right?
The question you say, Matt.
That's ultimate, yeah, right. And so, and him dealing with the man of 1,000 faces, and then the new form it takes and crawls down the well.
The priest and it crawls. Yeah.
It crawls like I've definitely seen this in a horror movie. The way this is crawling, I'm trying to think of it to compare it to it, and I can't think of the movie. Damn it! But yeah, kind of like a contortionist would crawl around.
Reminds me. Yeah, I want to say The Grudge, but I don't think it is.
No.
It's along those lines though of Yeah.
But of course, this is when he wakes up in present day with Richard Dragon. He's finally woken up from like experiencing this. And yeah, it basically makes a choice that he's going to go after this enemy, this 1,000-faced man, this Zaz, and he has his question sort of face on at the end with the smoke making the question mark around him.
Yep, it's always a cool visual.
I mean, it's a hell of a cliffhanger at the final issue, because I think I was curious actually. I think based on the way this was working out, where for issue 2 we went into this Wild West past, and then issue 3 is in this noir past. I think as I was reading this, I was like, well, how is this all going to wrap up in the final issue? But when I got to the end, and I'm like, oh no, this has all been building up to him realizing that the threat's right in front of him. Because again, it's been a long time since I read issue 1, and because issue 1 and issue 2 were so separate in terms of concept, but there was this like a serial killer or something in issue 1, right? There was like murders or something happening.
I just remember that it had to do with the mayor.
Yeah,
and that's what led him to that cult like area, and that's what started all the. So I think it was the cult as not so much as a killer. People were going missing, and that's what he finds.
Yeah, but the 1,000th face man's behind it all, though, right? So like, the idea that there's this, that's who he's going to go after. This has been building up to him realizing who the enemy is, and hopefully he's going to be able to take him on.
I was just looking at how long ago the first issue came out, just for some context.
November.
20th of November it came out. So 3 issues in what, 8 months? By the time we finish this 4 issues, it'll be nearly a year.
Yeah. So it's good, and it's one of those things where often if I feel this way, I'll go back and skim things. The problem is though, is that every single book is this way. So I honestly have time to go back and skim every single previous issue.
Yeah, there's a lot, isn't there? So
that is what it is. But yeah, the art's fantastic throughout. I mean, like I say, I think the art's been great in all the issues, but I think it benefited this setting even more so than the other ones. Rain looked good, all the smoke effects look good, really fantastic stuff. But no, it's so readable, it flows so smoothly. I think I felt the same way about the Flash annual this week, is that this was an oversized, but this was 60 goddamn pages, and honestly, like, I probably read it in like half the time I was expecting to, based on the page numbers.
Yeah, it goes in pretty quick.
It flew in.
I thought as much as it was harmed by delays, mostly outside of its control, because 80% of it is this standalone story, right? And as the beats are coming together, you're starting to remember, especially the important ones. Like when it gets into the stuff at the end, it kind of functions really well in its own right for most of it. That even if you're like you've got this nagging feeling in the back of your head that you're missing some of the wider context, but it's still really enjoyable to read.
Yeah, I loved all the noir stuff here. Yeah, I couldn't I remember the Western stuff and just trying to piece together, but just as a noir story, and especially with everything that's going on in the world and the stuff I've been listening to, it felt like I really felt the synchronicity at play here.
Yeah, I think the really spread out schedule does hurt reading it in single issues, but I do think the trade for this is going to read very well. And If not one sitting, at least a couple of close sittings.
Oh yeah. Because I'm looking now. The second issue was 15th of January, so it was nearly exactly 2 months between those two issues, and I remember that being completely fine when I was reading them.
So the third issue was supposed to be March. Clearly, it got pushed a little bit just for
It
normal
probably would
reasons.
have been pushed to April.
Yeah,
and you'd have gone, we probably still would have managed fine.
no big deal. But then April, of course, is when no books came out because the world decided to change. So, really good stuff though. Matt, what are you giving this issue?
It was an 8.
Connor?
For the fourth book this week, 8.5.
Ding.
All right, there you go. Good track record. So that was the last sort of.
Wait, what are you giving it?
Oh, sorry, 8.5. Yeah. It's a good week. And we almost forgot to talk about Young Justice because for whatever reason I didn't put it in the book list. Connor already left. We're actually recording this after all the other books. Connor left.
So when I give this a 9.5 and it's not number 1, you guys don't know why.
Honestly, I will say this. This actually wouldn't probably make it out of my top 5.
No, it's fine, and I like what Bendis is doing because if you're reading all of the Bendis stuff, which I am, it all fits in really well. Because this leaves off the action issue with Connor picks up.
Mm-hmm.
But here we find out that Bart has been going through the multiverses because he has realized something's broken, and that Connor from this universe, or Connor being gone by going to Gem World, when he came back, this isn't exactly his universe. So he is from pre-Rebirth.
Yeah, to put it in perspective, he was stuck in Gem World when whatever crisis happened that changed the world.
Right.
And then, so he's still kind of left over. Although I would argue that, I mean, is he even really from that part of the timeline? Because, I mean...
No, he's from a different one because that's what we saw in action with Ma and Pa Kent remembering him upon seeing him is a lot the same with Barry seeing Wally and remembering and kicking all that off.
Well, yeah, that's different though, because the Kent's remembering him makes it more like he is from this same world before the crisis changed things.
Right, that's why I said it's similar, but it's not the same. You know what I mean? Like something's happening, and then so you find out that the Star Labs.
No, but what I'm saying is that Connor Kent in like the main continuity before Flashpoint died. Right?
Because he came back.
When did he come back?
He came back from... Yeah, he never finished Legion of Three Worlds.
Oh, right, okay.
He comes back, him and Bart both, which is the great thing here. This is where, Bendis is pulling from that. By the end of this issue, because we see all the Star shenanigans, and that's where Bart starts explaining he's gone through the different multiverses, and stuff's not adding up, but he doesn't get quite to it. So everyone at the end goes off to what they need to do. And Connor goes, he's like, yeah, I'm going to go meet with Superman.
Yeah.
He comes back and is like, Bart, you're not telling something. Something else is amiss. Because when they both came back at the same time in Legion of Three Worlds.
Yeah, that's the end of the story, is that Connor says, hey, something's not adding up here. You, that explains me, but it doesn't explain where you came
Everyone
back.
Else.
Yeah.
Which leads to the, next time is, what Bart's been up to.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's exciting. I'm curious to see that. I will say that, see when I got to because again, we got to the second page, this 2-page spread of all the characters. And I have to say, it being such a long time from the last issue, I looked at one of the guys in the middle and went, who the hell is this asshole? And of course, it's Miguel, but he's in a hero. He's dilating. So obviously he doesn't. He changes his look all the time. So I'm like, who is this guy? Who's this asshole? And that's who it was. I realized that later.
And then Bart has information on Naomi, and he gives her a doorway projector type thing from Star Labs, about her home world and all of this. So, this, not that this is a keystone to what's going on with all the Wonder Comic stuff, but it certainly is a crux of what Bendis is doing with Superman, Young Justice, and the Wonder Comic stuff.
It's notable that all the other Wonder Comics are all done right now. This is the only one that's actually coming out. And I mean, the issue, it suffers a little bit from just being kind of standing around and explaining things. And there's some nice moments in here, don't get me wrong. I like the fact that the team kind of say, okay, we're kind of the Young Justice again. And everyone is kind of included, and when the stuff goes down, we'll call everyone in, and that includes spoiler. It includes the Wonder Twins. It includes Naomi. It's all good.
The Dial H kids.
Dial H kids, yeah.
And then they're officially a Young Justice League. This is because the Wonder Twins end up pulling some strings to getting actual designation. That they are they are affiliated with the Justice League, which is really cool. As explains the name. I thought pretty in a fun way.
So this is set right before the fight that they were involved in Action Comics, seemingly.
Yep, in Action. Yep.
Yeah.
Which then leads to the Connor stuff, and it all pieces together really well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the fact that it led, being the continuity guy I am, Bart and Connor being the ones that are, that Bendis is using to piece this mystery together, I really like, because they did, Bart got killed in right before Final Crisis by the Rogues in his own book, which led to Rogue's Revenge, which was also part of Final Crisis. And then, Connor died in Infinite Crisis. So in Legion of Three Worlds, when they get brought back by the Legion, by Johns, it really meant the world to me. And then here, Bendis is using them as that, what is it, conduit?
Yeah, it's
so what's going on in the multiverse.
Yeah, everything it's doing conceptually is pretty fun and is cool. I think it's suffering a little bit from what this book has been suffering from occasionally, which is this is literally just a bunch of characters standing around talking all this through and explaining it all. So it's not the most exciting issue. It's not necessarily like, it feels kind of inelegant in how it's constructed, and that it is just kind of all this exposition constantly.
It's kind of all the pieces, there, and it is. These have always been the most Bendis issues. These are the ones that Connor would hate the most. Like there are parts of Superman I really feel he would enjoy because they're not as wordy. But I did message you yesterday if you hadn't read Young Justice. It's very, very wordy. So
I think Young Justice has probably suffered. Well, it's probably maybe time with Legion actually in terms of like I think because they both have so many characters. They've both kind of suffered a little bit, especially since it's added more characters recently. Although it seems to be they're going maybe back down to the core group again for a while. Here is that it's dealing with so many characters bantering off of each other, and a lot of it is pretty fun. But I feel like it's not slowed down enough to really get a foothold in what its ongoing story is. And the fact that we're at issue 15 and we're only just kind of wrapping up like why Connor's here and next issue why Bart's here and all that stuff. It's maybe taken a little bit too long to get there, and there's it's mostly been fun, but I look back at some of the earlier stuff with the gem world and then the multiverse hopping, and it oddly feels like a lot of it was very kind of, I don't want to say filler-ish, but it felt like the stories themselves were a little bit inconsequential overall, and just there to kind of like almost stall us before we get to the meat. And the meat is, again, it's generally good, but it's told in a kind of just a straightforward bunch of people standing around and talking about it. Kind of way.
It's still enjoyable, but in that way that I don't want to say it feels like a slog to get through, but it is, like you said, standing around. It doesn't really move.
Yeah. Worth mentioning, that final page when Bart's being confronted by Connor, he does have tears in his eyes, so clearly this is going to be something emotionally impactful to him. So we'll see. Your mic's going, Matt, by the way.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I know. Just as we're wrapping up here, but art's pretty solid. Bruce Timm's on the art. I didn't mention that earlier. He's been doing a lot of these issues. Sometimes only half
Bruce
of an
Timm's,
issue. Oh god,
isn't it?
Yeah.
It was John Timms.
It's John Timms. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Bruce Timms is a different person.
That's a different person. That's the animated series. I do apologize. But yeah, so yeah, I forgot to put this book in the list, so we actually just had to squeeze this in after we finished the rest of the podcast. But what are you giving this book?
I'm gonna give this an 8. So it fits in.
I'm going with a. I kind of want to give it a 7, but I think I may actually go with a 6.5.
Oh man!
I think I like the ideas that it's doing. I enjoy the characters finally kind of getting some of these answers and moving forward. I just don't think the book actually gives the answers in a way that's in any way kind of engaging. It's just kind of like here they are. Here's just Bart's going to explain things to them, without anything super exciting really happening or going on. So There you go. That is Young Justice issue 15. That was the last regular book. We do have, just I will mention, the digital DCeased Hope at World's End issue 3, which came out this week, which we've been kind of keeping up on because, of course, we're invested in Taylor's wackiness. This was an issue about the speedsters, not Barry, but everyone else. Wally primarily, but also Bart, Max Mercury, Jesse Quick, and how Wally and Bart run in one of the treadmills to create a portal to another world so that the other speedsters can evacuate as many people. They get like a 200,000 people or something close to that through it. And
to another world, yep.
Yeah. And I thought I was going to go with a really dark ending because Max Mercury gets bit, right? And I thought, and he's through the portal, and it's like, oh shit, like they've gotten through the portal.
Did they just ruin this whole other Earth?
Yep.
And then it's like, no, like he's still keeping a hold of himself for a minute, and he's like, no, like you have to like send me back or do something with me. And basically they run with him so that he can essentially run into like the Speed Force afterlife and just run forever in there.
He would never have been fast enough to get into the Speed Force on his own.
Nope.
Yeah.
But with Wally dragging him there, it's like, nope, live free.
So it ends in this really sort of like hopeful, heartfelt page of him just smiling in the Speed Force. This is now his existence.
This is easily the best issue of this yet.
Yes.
I think this is obviously, we spoke about the shorter format of this. It's issues like this that Tom Taylor can make this format sing. Because I've read at least 2 or 3 issues of his Injustice, again, at this size, that just have such a impact, that they feel like monumental in what they're doing.
The thing that got me is on Twitter, they were like, I see that it's Wally, and you've said Wally's your favorite Flash. You wouldn't do anything bad to Wally. And Taylor goes, I wouldn't, would I? And there was just, it turns out this time, no. Well, Wally got the, the Flash, like, hopeful
at least for
vibe
now.
here. At least for now. And anytime I can see Jesse Quick, I love that character. So it was good to see her.
And it's interesting to see. It's interesting to see that we've set up some sort of parallel world somewhere where a lot of the Flash family are there, and did they pop back up later in this book? Very possible, since it's in this book that they set it up.
If not, they're free to play within the multiverse now.
I think in the main book even later on, but we could somehow end up getting to this idea that it's not just the jungle, the garden in Gotham that's been a haven, or the people who left Earth in the main book. We also now have this, these people who hopped to a different world with the Flashes, which is actually also a cool idea. So there's actually like 3 places of refuge essentially that came, and they're so separated, and some of them don't even know that some of the others exist. Like, no one else knows about this one. Like, I don't think anyone who left Earth or anyone in Gotham knows that this third place exists where the Flash is.
One of my favorite beats in this as well is when I think it was Max Mercury takes Linda through like first.
Yeah.
And Wally's like, I'm gonna make sure I give him a hug for that one, and then obviously it all goes bad for him. But so he gives him the nice ending, almost as a thank you for that.
Thanks for bringing her through first. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. This one got me, and I was like, "Damn it, Taylor."
Well, it's also just nice to get a Wally West story that's actually not.
Well, that's what I mean. It made me. It made me like mournful for what's happened to Wally. We could have had these stories for 5 years.
And it's very interesting that obviously the DCeased's been this really weird concoction of continuity in the sense that some stuff's from certain periods, some stuff's from other periods. The reason why I'm bringing this up is that Wally's in kind of his Rebirth-esque suit here, as opposed to anything else.
That may have simply been a DC editorial choice, just to make it recognizable for anyone who's newer in comics. Anyone who's come in with Rebirth and hasn't really read any older stuff. This is easily accessible to them as, this is Wally West. We know who this is. It just gives them a clearly defined look to separate them.
But there you go. Also, one of my favorite beats actually is a sad one. It's when Wally's talking to Batman over the comms, and he says something like, tell Dick to stay safe, and Batman just looks over, and Dick's dead body's just lying there, and I'm like, you're hurting me, Taylor.
And he's in the Mr. Freeze suit, so you know exactly when this is going on.
Yeah.
Like it's still
just
fresh.
The dead body's there, and he's just like Godspeed. And I'm like, God damn it. Why remind me of that beat? Because that was so tragic in the main issue when we had that. Here we go.
Yeah, that's the price for reading Tom Taylor. He's gonna make you feel things.
It was a rough time, but hey, All right, so that was good. And it was G. Domenico on the art in this one. So art was solid. Obviously, no stranger to drawing flashes, but
yeah, we know he is fantastic at drawing flashes.
so Matt, have we been rating these? I don't know.
No, we haven't.
We haven't. Okay,
We haven't been.
That's fine. That's good. Let's say that. All right. So that'll take us out of the part of the show where we pick our favorite stuff, favorite panel / moment, favorite cover, favorite art, and of course top 5 books. Which this week's actually quite an interesting task because there was a lot of good books. So first up, panel / moment. Matt, what have you got?
Man, so there's a whole lot I can pick from here. I hate going first. What do I go with? I know I'll just go from Strange Adventures. It's that Starfield where when he comes down with the timing and meets up with Alana at 1. So I'll go with that one.
Yeah, there's a lot of great moments in Strange Adventures that I think are super tempting. I'm going to be lame and just go with the obvious one, which is the chainsaw and metal.
I had to show some restraint.
Yeah,
so that's why I went with Strange Adventures.
I think, you know what, like, it makes sense that it's invisible at first, but I think I expect it to be invisible when she's pulling the card, and then it'll be there in the next page. The fact that it was still invisible as she was butchering the Batman Who Laughs, which, by the way, stay dead, thank you. You know, that just made it work for me. All right, Cara, what you got?
Seeing as you've taken that one, because that is a fantastic page, I will go from Hawkman, and I'll go with the moment of Cher remembering their past and kind of that close up on her face. It was that or the double page spread, but you know, great book.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cover of the week then. I'm basically
trying to look at some of the death metal variants.
Yeah, I had a quick glance at them. I think I'm kind of torn between the Gerads Strange Adventures cover or the regular cover for Question Deaths of Vic Sage, because I really like that one. I think I'll give it to the Question. I think I'm going to go with the Question. So yeah, I'm not going to explain it. Just look at it.
It's a very good cover.
Matt, what are you picking?
So I do like that cover, but the Hawkman is pretty good too.
Which one?
It's him. Oh, the variant. He's holding the mace. And his logo is flashing. Superman one's decent with Mongol. I'm going to the bottom. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Hawkman.
All right,
the variant.
Okay, I'm deciding between 2 metal variants. There's a Wonder Woman one that I'm assuming is Art Gem.
Yep.
I think I'm actually going to go with the Batman one, where he's like an actual knight with the sword and the axe. I believe that is the Ryan Brown cover. Yes, I think that's pretty gorgeous.
Okay. All right. Favorite art of the week then, Connor.
Man, what a tough week for that question. This is a week with Strange Adventures. You got Death Metal and Hawkman and the Question, all like top form for art. I think ultimately I'm gonna give it to Strange Adventures because I really like the complementary artists and the way they work that style in together is pretty special.
Matt, what are you going with?
So I'm gonna go with the Question, Dennis Cowan. That's just, you guys said it earlier. It's almost like he was just meant to do the noir stuff in there. It plays into his style real well. And as great as Strange Adventures and Death Metal are, that really stuck out to me.
Yeah, I'm probably going to go with Strange Adventures. It's just, both artists are so wonderful, and I love the atmosphere on the Garrett stuff. I love the pulpiness of the Shaner stuff. It's just, it's what it is. But yeah, it's a very tough week to pick. There's a lot of really strong contenders, and you know, obviously Metal and in Question. Definitely, I'd say Superman. I'd also kind of throw in
Superman.
Maguire's very good.
Pasarin on Hawkman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
So, all right, top 5 books of the week then. Matt, go.
So it's the number 1, Strange Adventures. 2 is what I can't even remember anymore. I'll say 2 is Hawkman, 3 is Question, 4 is Superman, 5 is Death Metal.
All right, Connor.
I'm surprised Matt had Death Metal like that low.
That's because I gave it an 8 instead of an 8.5, and I have to,
Yeah, adhere to what you said.
I gotta hear what I said.
Okay. I got 4 8.5s. Try and decide between on the order here, which is never fun. But it's nicer for yourself if you just give everything different scores. It's really easy at this point. I think I'll go Death Metal at 1, Hawkman at 2, Strange Adventures 3, and Question 4, and then DCeased at 5 because it was better than the Flash annual.
All right, just let Pete. Just what are yours?
I'm composing myself, Matt. I'm composing myself.
I picked an actual book this time, and it was a 5, so I don't want to hear any complaints.
Yeah, I don't know if digital books are eligible, to be honest, but it's fine.
We talk about them; they're eligible.
Fine. My number 1 is Strange Adventures issue 2. Number 2. This is tough. Number 2 is probably Death Metal. Number 3, I think Superman. Number 4, Question. Number 5, Flash Annual. And I think it's worth mentioning that I normally really like Outsiders, and I think Outsiders was solid this week, but it's actually like last place for me, which is a solid testament to how good this week is.
Yeah, it's a tough break. This was like a sports tournament. It just broke against a really hot team. So
yeah. So no, really strong week. So I will tell you what is coming next week. So coming next week, just in the order that League of Comic Geeks gets them to me in. Batman 93 is out. We got the Flash 756. Start of the final arc of Williamson's run. We got Justice League 47. Aquaman 60, which is cool. Teen Titans 42 is coming out. Red Hood Outlaw 46 is coming out. Connor will get to that soon enough. We got Justice League Dark 23 out. Batgirl 46 is also out. Batman Beyond 44 is out. We got John Constantine Hellblazer issue 7. Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen number 11 is out next week. Suicide Squad number 6. Batman the Smell Killer number 1. So we're finally getting Lemire's one-shot follow-up to Killer Smile. Yeah. So really cool. Plunge issue 4 is coming out. We have Harley Quinn the Birds of Prey issue 2. Lola Woods issue 6. And then, of course, the Green Lantern 80th anniversary 100-page super spectacular.
just for the regular, we had 10 books and then the 100-page special between us. Now, obviously, we're not all reading all the books, but still.
Why did I have a Patreon book this week?
Yeah, I don't know why you didn't. I gave you warning.
What was I thinking? Because I ran out of time. Like, Last of Us 2 came out yesterday, alright? I've had very busy other things on my mind.
Yeah, if anyone was wondering why there's no second Star Trek episode this week, it's because we were supposed to record it yesterday, and Pete went, let's just not bother. I want to play Last of Us.
No, I was giving Connor a night off because I feel for Connor. He's been working very hard recently, and he needed
He didn't
rest.
give me a night off when Last of Us had arrived for me, though, did he? He was like, before that arrives, we'll have a night off. I'm not going to get a night off this week when I could do with it to play Last of Us.
Wait, didn't it arrive for you like today?
It arrived today, yeah.
How can I give you tonight off? What's supposed to do? Cancel the comics podcast so you can play Last of Us? You inconsiderate swine.
I'm not saying I want
swine.
tonight off, but maybe Monday would be nice.
You got tomorrow off.
That's not good enough.
You've got the rest of tonight, and then you got tomorrow completely off. Let's play a time to play it.
No, it's not. You know full well it's not.
I like how Carr came out of this with an argument that he thought was ironclad, and I'm like, you literally are getting Sunday off. You get every Sunday off pretty much these days. What are you complaining about?
I want an extra day off. That's what I'm complaining about.
Matt wants a day off right now.
Hey, Matt, I was sending you images last night of a very Matt section of Last of Us 2, so don't...
I know you did, and I told my brother about it. Not exactly the spoilers, but because I asked him how far he was, and he was like, he's been stopping and doing everything, so he's really far behind.
I don't want to know. I'm only like 2 hours in. I've literally done the intro section.
Yes.
So it's fine. So I know up till you get to the main area that the game's kind of going to take place.
Yeah, so it was surprises even in the intro section, quite frankly.
Oh, there was, yes.
But yeah, you'll know it when you hit it. There's a very Matt friendly section, and it'll be very.
Does it have Vikings in it?
It's not Vikings though.
Okay, so it's a bear.
No,
Maybe.
not exactly. But but it's a very Matt section. Yeah, Last of Us 2 is very, very good so far. I'm about 10 hours in, something like that.
I literally like had to force myself to come off it so that I could read the last comics this afternoon before we started.
Yes.
It got to like 45 minutes before we're going to start, and I still had like 3 comics to go. One of them was The Question, one of them was The Flash Annual, which are both obviously oversized. And I went, I should really go and read those.
So, yeah, I will say this. I can't wait to see what Naughty Dog pull off on the PS5, because this already looks way better than it has any right to on this old console. I'm saying.
And that's true.
Anyway, that's been us. So we'll put Matt out of his misery. Start talking about video games.
Thank you. No, it's not just that. My brother's been badgering me to play that game forever, and I don't. I'm sure it's great. I just don't want to play Last of Us right now. I still have a whole bunch of stuff sitting on there.
Matt will enjoy God of War more.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably, yeah. And all 4 Uncharted's for that.
They're probably more Matt speed, to be honest. Yeah.
So.
Yes. So anyway,
plus I heard the stuff you have to do in this one, and I don't like the idea of that.
Yourself through that. Yeah, I get it.
Not at all. So.
Nah, the more traumatizing, the better. That's what makes it feel.
No. No.
All right. That has been the show. I will thank our Patreon producers for the month. If I can find my mouse, there it is. The problem is I've got 3 monitors and the third one's usually turned off, so sometimes my mouse ends up over there, I can't see it, and I'm like, where is it?
And he just doesn't have these memorized by now.
Well, there's new ones, which is why I used to have them memorized, but now there's new ones. So thank you to Alison Fordyce, Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Sharp, Board Now, and Zammer Jammer for being Patreon producers. You can be a producer at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. It's a $20 tier and up. However, of course, you can support us for much less than that. You can give us just $1 per month and feel warm and fuzzy in the inside for supporting your favorite podcast and keep all the content coming. But of course, you get early access to the show at $5, as well as voting rights on the occasional book on Previously in the Multiverse, which you also get early by a day at $5. So go and have a look and see if you're interested. You can, of course, support us in a number of different ways. You can like us on the YouTubes. Liking is really important, as is commenting, letting us know what you think of the books. You can, of course, get us on the Twitters at DC Comics Podcast. Otherwise, is there anything else that I would like to tell you? I don't think there is. Nothing's springing to mind, but I'll tell you next week if there is. if I had to escape me, I'll tell you next week. But that is the show. That is episode 207 of Comics from the Multiverse. So you know what, be good people. But thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.